we present Paul Kermack and Robert Trotter in The Taste of Proof, adapted for radio from his novel of the same name by Bill Knox. The Taste of Proof.
Here he is, Chief Inspector Thane. Frank Humby.
Thanks, officer.
I'll be outside when you want me, sir.
Thank you. Cigarette, Frank.
I'll take that from anybody. Well, what is it now? Glasgow cops started making social calls on untried prisoners?
Not yet, no. How are you getting on?
Barlin is all right if you know the ropes.
And you do, eh? I was beginning to think you'd learned some sense. It's 4 years since the last time.
Now, steady, I haven't admitted doing anything.
This time, that's a formality. And with a record like yours, robbing your employers was just damn stupid.
You're pretty sure of yourself. Look, even if you are the CID boss at Millside Division...
Stop fooling about. You know the charge. Early this morning, along with a person or persons unknown, having broken into premises occupied by the Glenalt Whisky Liqueur Company at Wood Street, Millside, forced open a lock-fast safe and stolen £3,000...
Belonging to the said company. Look, I was in court, remember? So what?
The evidence. A beat cop saw a car with 2 men aboard leaving Wood Street at 1 a.m. Now, cars are scarce around Wood Street at that time, so he noted the number. Then went looking for trouble.
Clever of him.
The Glen Alt office had been raided. The back of the safe jemmied open.
Oh, you know, these firms with old safes, they should know better.
No fingerprints around, Frank. Everything wiped, except one thing. The cap of a whiskey bottle we found in the wastebasket. A whiskey bottle that had been in the manager's cupboard. The bottle cap had one fingerprint. Yours.
I don't mind listening, Chief Inspector.
Then we found the car, a stolen car, abandoned. Again, wiped clean of prints. But the Glenalt cash box was in it, forced open and empty. There was a penknife halfway down the back of the seat. A penknife with a broken blade. A break that matched the mark on the cash box lock.
Not my knife.
No. The initials DD were on the handle.
DD? You have been busy.
DD, Douglas DL. A young clerk in the main office, who wasn't home at all last night and didn't show up for work this morning.
Is that a fact?
Oh, Humby, let's save time. It was meant to look like an outside job, but it wasn't. Now, you drive a van for the Glenalt Company.
A truck. There is a difference.
Yesterday evening, you were almost 2 hours late on your last delivery run. So late that the night watchman was the only one around to let you into the warehouse parking lot beside the office.
The truck's feed pump seized. It took time to fix.
That feed pump hasn't been touched in weeks. Humby, you had somebody hidden aboard that van. Somebody who had a key to the door that leads into the office block. Later, well, he opened that window and helped you in from the street.
Did you think that all up by yourself, Chief Inspector? I've got a wife who'll swear I was at home before 11 o'clock last night. And I didn't go out again till your mob grabbed me at breakfast time.
Your wife's loyal that way. But I've got you, Humby. Now I want young DL. And the 3,000 that was stolen.
Well, it's not at my place.
We looked. Maybe DL has it.
You better find him, eh?
Well, it's your hard luck if we don't, Frank. A first-time amateur. And he skips off with £3,000 while you get a possible 5 years.
I'll take my chance. Nothing to say, Chief Inspector. Nothing at all.
Afternoon, sir.
Hello, Mac. All quiet?
Well, I'm doing my expenses, sir.
Oh, then, Sergeant McLeod, it's really quiet. Where's Inspector Moss?
Here I am, Colin. I've been out for a haircut.
Looks like they used a lawnmower.
Well, it'll last this way.
Till next year. Come on through.
Aye, right.
Well, thanks very much, then. Goodbye.
Sarge. All right, Beach. What is it this time?
Shut the door, Phil, will you?
Okay. Well, how'd you go on at Budlenny?
So Frank Humby. No dice. He won't talk.
Yeah. His wife's different. You were lucky you missed her.
Here?
Uh-huh.
Sit down. Tell me about it.
Aye. Well, you know Jean Humby.
Red-headed and with a temper to match. But she's fond of Humby. Women can be funny that way.
That's why I'm a bachelor.
Aye, the kind of bachelor who picks up free meals at my place. And I've a wife and 2 kids to support.
Don't you start. Anyway, Jean Humby has changed her idea about times.
Has she? That's unusual.
Yeah, she said Frank was home by 11:30 last night, remember?
Uh-huh.
Now she says it was 12:30.
And the Glenholt raid was about 1 a.m. What's her story now?
Oh, that she laid it on a bit thick the first time, to protect Humby. She thought the break-in had been around midnight.
Right. What else does she say?
That Frank told her he had met a pal called Douglas DL and they had a few drinks.
Did he now? Well, that's more than he told me. Then what?
Well, she gives Humby hell if he comes home tight. So he'd walked round for a spell to sober up, or so he said.
Oh, Phil, I don't care what anybody says. We've got Humby over a barrel. That fingerprint.
You tell her.
You mean she's coming back?
Tomorrow, she says, with proof.
Proof? Proof of what?
How the hell should I know? She just went storming out.
I can imagine.
Ah,
Something wrong?
it's just my guts again.
That damned ulcer. Now, why the hell don't you let some surgeon carve it out?
I wouldn't be seen dead in an operating theatre.
Now, what do you want then? A plumber?
No, here. These'll do it.
Pills. Hey, that's a new kind.
Aye, aluminium glycinate. A chemist told me about them. Well, down the hatch.
Cheers. So, Humby told his wife he'd been drinking with Douglas DL.
Sounds like a stage 1 alibi.
A pretty stupid one.
DL will turn up.
What have we got on him?
Nothing much. Age 26. Works with the Glenholt outfit as a clerk. Single. Rents a room with a family over in Shannon Street.
He comes from up north, doesn't he?
Aberdeen. His parents still live there. I've teleprinted the Aberdeen force to keep an eye open for them.
We could use a photograph of DL.
We've got one. He dated one of the Glenholt typists a few times. She let us have a snapshot we can enlarge.
And that's about all we can do for now. Jean Humby. I'm not looking forward to her tomorrow.
Well, it's your turn. And you're welcome.
Colin. Oh, blast that radio.
Oh. Were you saying something, Mary?
Are you reading that book or just sleeping in that chair?
A bit of both, I suppose.
Would you like some coffee?
What time is it?
Past 11. If you want to sleep, you've a bed.
All right. Coffee, then bed. I'm ready for both. Oh, damn.
I'll get it.
No, don't bother. It'll be for me. Another quiet night at home, shot to hell. Thane?
Colin, Phil Moss.
Oh, Phil, what's it this time?
Jean Humby's dead.
Dead?
It's murder. I'm at her house now. It's that block of multi-storey flats in Gradient Terrace.
I'll be right over, Phil. Damn.
I suppose I can forget the coffee.
Coffee? Oh, I'll be lucky if I see breakfast. I've got a feeling about this one, Mary. Just a feeling.
Indian Colin.
Right, Phil. Hello, Doc.
Colin, give me a minute. I'm nearly through.
Well, there she is.
So is he.
That's how she was found. Lying in front of that damned great stereo record player. Same clothes she was wearing this afternoon. Doc Williams reckons she's been dead maybe a couple of hours.
That's a rough estimate. I'm a police surgeon, not a genius.
Well, somebody really turned this place over. Drawers ripped out, things upended.
The rest of the place is the same. No prizes for guessing what someone was looking for.
3,000 quid. But did he find it?
Well, it seems that way. Superintendent Lawrence better tell you about that one. Scientific Bureau style. He's in the kitchen.
All right. But I thought we searched this place.
We did.
Colin, I'm ready now.
All right, Doc. Cause of death.
Oh, this one's worth a paper in any forensic journal.
Glad for you, Doc. Really we are.
No, I mean it. All we've got at first glance is a bluish tinge around the lips. Though the fingertips and toes have the same signs. But, look closer, Colin. Her face. See anything there?
Well, a small scratch to one side of her nose.
Uh-huh. 1 or 2 marks round the chin, plus a large bruise on the back of her head. It's a birking, eh? I've only read about them till now.
Doc, I'm just a simple ignorant cop.
Oh, agreed. Birking. Burke and Hare.
The old-time body snatchers, I remember. That's how they operated when they gave up digging in graveyards and went after fresher business. One held the victim down, sitting on his chest. The partner squeezed his left hand over the mouth and nostrils and used the right to keep the chin jammed up.
3 minutes or so, and they'd a corpse. But the refinement here is she was coursed first. If she was unconscious, that would make it a one-man job.
Thanks, Doc. Who found her, Phil?
An uncle named Joe O'Brien. He's waiting in the next flat. We've already checked the neighbours. They don't know anything.
Do they ever? Anywhere?
Right.
Phil, she told you she'd come back with proof.
I know. I've been thinking about that, believe me. It'll keep. Here's Dan Lawrence.
Hello, Colin. Didn't hear you arrive.
Oh, I'm just catching up. What's the Scientific Bureau side, Dan?
Well, not a hell of a lot, but a few things. Starting with this stereo. That's not strictly my territory. But see the way the back's been unscrewed?
Yes?
Take a look. That wee space to the right of the amplifier.
All right. Over here, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
One blue canvas money bag empty. And that book of bank withdrawal slips.
Stamped Glen Alt Limited. Phil, who was supposed to search this place?
Sergeant McLeod.
Well, I'll talk to him later.
You want to see the rest of it?
Please.
Now come through to the kitchen.
Colin, I'll pack in now, but I'll be in touch about the autopsy report.
Thanks, Doc.
See you.
In here. Don't worry about fingerprints. This character wore gloves.
A tray. 2 cups and saucers, sugar and milk.
And electric kettle ready to be switched on.
An uncle says she knew he was coming.
So she'd opened the door, eh?
And maybe found Douglas DL, eh?
Who's he?
Oh, someone we're looking for, Dan.
And if you find him, what then?
Well, right now, I'd let Frank Humby have him for half an hour. But if there was any kind of scuffle, you should...
In a multi-story block, TVs and radios going. You could have a private ward to yourself and no one would know.
I suppose so. Get her body moved, Phil. Then we'll see this Uncle Joe who found her.
She was a good girl, Mr. Thane. A rare wee girl. Could I have a taste more of that whiskey? I mean, Jean wouldn't grudge me it if she was here.
Phil?
Here you are, Joe.
Water?
God, no. Oh, that's better.
Good. You say you got here about 10:30, but the door was locked.
Aye, so when nobody answered the door, well, you see, there's this wee bit of celluloid I carry for emergencies, like.
Did you learn to open a lock that way?
In jail, mister. I used to be pretty good at the housebreaking, but you get too old for that caper. I've led the upright life for years now.
So you went in and found her dead?
Aye.
Did you touch anything?
Do you mean steal? Look, what do you take me for, eh?
Only asked. What did you do?
I telephoned the police, of course. Then I waited a hell of a time till they got here.
3 minutes. Control had a patrol car practically round the corner.
O'Brien, why did you come here tonight?
Well, Jean wanted me to help prove Frank was innocent, that you had the wrong man for that robbery job.
How?
Well, I manage this wee billiard hall now, and, well, I've some good pals there.
That I'll believe.
Is he always like this?
He's got an ulcer.
Oh, should be in hospital then, no harassing mourning relatives. Is there any more of that whiskey?
No. Look, how were you going to help Jean?
Well, she had her own ideas. Something to do with this lad DL that was supposed to be on the raid with Frank.
DL? What about him?
Well, that was what I was coming to find out. You see, she came to the billiard hall, and then this evening she phoned and asked me to come round here. She said she'd remembered something Frank had told her about DL. And if it meant what she thought, she had you cops with the short hairs.
If what meant what she thought?
That's what I was coming here to find out. Yeah, but I can tell you one thing. Frank was drinking with this lad DL the evening before the robbery.
Where?
A pub called the Wyvern. About 6 o'clock that night. I put the word out I was interested, and that's what came back.
6 o'clock? That's when Humby was still supposed to be repairing his truck.
Well, I don't know about that, mister. But where you've got him, he couldn't have killed Jean, could he?
No, he couldn't. Phil,
Uh-huh.
take over here.
Aye, right.
I've a job to do.
Here we are, Chief Inspector. Where you want me?
No.
Right. We'll, keep an eye on him afterwards.
Frank. Frank, wake up.
Yeah, what the hell?
Oh, no. Look, can't I even get some kip in peace?
Sit up, Frank.
Well, what is it this time?
It's about your wife, Frank.
Jean? What about her? She ill or something?
I'm sorry, Frank. She's dead.
Dead? Jean? Dead?
Murdered, Frank. Then the house was searched.
Well, look, can I get out of here? To see her, I mean.
We'll fix it. I'll also have you taken out to the flat. We've got to know if anything else is missing.
What?
The money's gone. Frank, Dale was your partner on the Glen Holt job, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Did he know you had the money hidden at home?
Yeah. Look, let it wait, eh? Please?
All right, all right. I'm sorry, Frank. I'm really sorry.
Morning, Colin.
Hello, Phil.
How much sleep did you get last night?
No more than you.
I heard Frank Humby took it badly.
Badly, but... Oh, I don't know. Headquarters wants an explanation about why we didn't find the money on that first search.
Well...
That's my problem.
Chief Superintendent Ilford will want someone's head.
Well, not before I find out what happened. This is my division. What else have we got, Phil?
Well, that story about Humby and Dale being in the pub together checks out. We got hold of a couple of the pub regulars, thanks to Joe O'Brien. Humby and Dale were talking in a corner for a spell, and Humby had his Glen Holt truck outside.
Right. Phil, I'm dumping a load of work on you.
As usual. Well,
Search young Dale's lodgings again, just in case. Then head out to Bellini Prison and collect Humby. I've fixed a release into our custody. Bring him to the flat and have him look around.
how about you?
Well, Sergeant McLeod first, then the Glen Holt place. Who's the boss there?
George Greenlaw, he's managing director.
Right, I'll be at headquarters after that.
Give my love to Buddha Ilford.
Oh, that'll help.
I'll get started.
Right, Phil. Now. Sergeant McLeod.
Sir?
In here, please. Pronto.
Yes, sir.
This I could do without.
You wanted me, sir?
Yes, Mac. Close the door.
Sir.
Mac, who was with you when you searched Humby's place yesterday?
D.C. Edwards, sir.
Two of you. Yet neither of you checked inside the stereo set.
No, sir. I'm sorry. Mrs. Humby was being difficult. Things were, well, awkward.
You were in charge, Sergeant. Chief Superintendent Ilford is going to want to know what went wrong.
I know, sir. If we'd found that money, she wouldn't have been killed.
Maybe. All right, Mac, let's have it. You said she was difficult. How difficult?
She took a swipe at me with a milk bottle, sir. Or that's how she started. But, well, we just picked up her husband.
So you let her away with it?
Sir, am I still on full duty?
You are, and I have a job for you. Call it penance if you want. Jean Humby was contacting people, trying to find out what her husband had been doing. And we know she was at her uncle's billiard hall. After that, it's a shoe leather job. Friends, anyone you can think of.
Yes, sir. Sir.
Well?
Frank Humby's daughter is on her way over from Belfast by plane. Do you want her met at the airport?
His daughter? Never mentioned a daughter.
Joe O'Brien phoned in. He thought we should know.
More like he wanted to save himself the price of a taxi. All right, fix it. How old is she?
Oh, early 20s, sir.
Right. If you need me urgently, I'll be at the Glen Holt offices. It's about time we had a closer look at that end.
Good morning, sir. Can I help you?
I'm Chief Inspector Thane, Millside Division. Is Mr. Greenlaw in?
Oh, yes. He said the police might be round. We read about Mrs. Humby in the papers. Just a moment.
Thanks.
Yes, Barbara?
Chief Inspector Thane to see you, Mr. Greenlaw.
Right. Bring him through, will you?
Yes, Mr. Greenlaw. If you'll come this way, Chief Inspector.
Fine.
Chief Inspector, do you mind if I ask a question?
Go on.
It's about Douglas.
Douglas Dale?
Yes. Have you found him yet?
No. Are you the girl who gave us the photograph?
That's right. I'm Barbara MacPhail. We're friends.
Close friends?
I like him. He's just not the type, Chief Inspector.
For what?
Mrs. Humby's dead. People here are, well, putting two and two together.
But you don't believe it.
I know him, Chief Inspector. Well, this is Mr. Greenlaw's office.
Ah, Chief Inspector. Thanks, Barbara, that's all.
Yes, sir.
It's good of you to see me, Mr. Greenlaw.
Murder apart, I can think of 3,000 good reasons, Chief Inspector. Sit down.
Thanks.
We have met before, about a year ago, just for a moment or two. You gave a talk on office security to the local business club.
I remember the talk.
Well, how can I help?
Can you identify these?
Oh, well, yes, that's one of our bank bags. Empty now. And these withdrawal slips are ours. Where'd you get them?
At Frank Humby's flat.
I see. Did young DL kill Mrs. Humby?
Well, let's say he's on the list of starters. What can you tell me about DL?
He's been here about 4 months. An invoice clerk on the export side. Sometimes he helped out the cashier, Mr. Odell.
Do you do much export business?
Do we? Chief Inspector. Ever tried Glenalt whiskey liqueur?
A couple of times. It's pricey.
Not by American standards. We can't ship enough of it. Of course, we're one of the small names in the whiskey liqueur trade, but we're growing all right.
You're not distillers?
No. Look, we're compounders. We buy in straight, ordinary whiskey in bulk. Then we add our own syrups, things like citronella and aniseed, mint, juniper. There's a long list. Each compounder has his own recipe.
Which he keeps secret.
You guard it everywhere you know.
But your liqueur whiskey recipe wasn't in the safe.
You've got the term wrong, Chief Inspector. Liqueur whiskey is a trade name for very old, mature whiskey. Nothing added. It could be 20 years old. You don't want it too much older. I once tasted a bottle of 100-year-old. It was like paint thinner. Whiskey liqueur, that's our business.
Yeah, I'll remember that. Let's get back to DL. Did he have a key to the door between your warehouse and the office?
Yes, there's only the one door, and only people who have to work between the two places have keys. I got the idea from your talk at the business club.
Would he know about the money?
Wages drawn every week from the bank, plus some money I needed for a cash transaction. He knew all right. I sent him along with Mr. Odell to the bank to collect it. Excuse me. Yes, Barbara?
Mr. Kelso to see you, Mr. Greenlaw.
Oh, all right, I'll ask him to come through. Chief Inspector, I'm sorry. It's a customs and excise man I've just got to see. Is there anything else you need?
Well, if I could talk to your cashier and maybe have a look over your warehouse.
No problem. Greta Odell's in the office now. Come in, John.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. John Kelso, Customs and Excise. Chief Inspector Thane, Police.
Mr. Kelso?
Glad to meet you, Chief Inspector. But I can come back.
Oh, I'm just going, Mr. Kelso. I'm getting the guided tour. That's the compounding vats, right, Miss Riddell?
Right. Each holds 1,000 gallons. We don't pretend to be a big firm, but we're doing all right. Chief Inspector, you said you had some questions.
Yes, I have. Douglas DL first. When he went with you to the bank, did he seem nervous or excited in any way?
No, but he wasn't the talkative type.
Now, how long did you know there would be more money than usual to collect?
Several days.
And
And before you ask, yes, I did make a joke about it to him. It was damn stupid looking back.
Looking back's always easy. Did Mrs. Humby ever come here?
Just once, I think. Frank, her husband was off sick. She came to collect his wages.
Did people here know Humby had a record?
Yes. At least George Greenlaw and I did, but he was a good worker. We trusted him. Wait a moment. Ed, over here. Can you spare a moment?
Right, Miss Riddell.
Ed Yule's our foreman. Frank Humby worked directly under him.
There's something wrong, Miss Riddell.
Ed, the chief inspector wants to know about Frank Humby.
Well, I didn't hire him.
What was he like to work with?
Stubborn. He did his work, but he wasn't exactly friendly.
Except perhaps with Douglas DL.
Well, they talked now and again. I'm kept too damn busy to watch all that goes on.
What about Humby's last delivery run? Did he complete that?
Oh, first thing I checked when I heard he'd been arrested. He did. 100 cases of bottles consigned to Hamburg, delivered to Leith Docks. Anything else?
Not for now. I'm due at Frank Humby's flat. But I may be back.
Oh, any time, Chief Inspector. You've got Humby. Now I'd like to see you get this little murdering basket DL. All of us would.
Oh, it's just you, Colin. I thought it might be someone important.
Like the milkman. Is Humby still here?
DC Beach is going around the flat with him. Well, anything fresh with you?
Nothing spectacular, Phil. I looked in at headquarters on my way here.
And?
Oh, I was lucky. Buddha Ilford had been called to see the chief constable.
That'll be another time.
Unfortunately. But the PM results through. No surprises. Jean Humby was coshed, then manually suffocated. Approximate time of death, 10:15 p.m.
Well, no. That's interesting.
Oh, why?
Wait till I close the ruddy door. Right. While I was bringing Humby here from prison, Beach took another prowl around the neighbours. He dug up something that ties in.
Go on.
A girl. 17 in the world's shortest miniskirt.
Well, that's Beach, all right.
No, I'm serious. This girl and her boyfriend were up on the roof of this block last night. There's a sort of balcony bit, private, for a necking session.
There's always somewhere. And?
Well, they were in a dark corner and busy at it. Look. Then they realised they weren't alone. Another couple had come up.
Phil...
She says a woman with dark hair, a white raincoat and a good figure. The man was, well, she can't remember. But she'd never seen them before. She says they weren't local and they left the balcony just before 10. She doesn't think they noticed there was anyone else on the balcony.
Just before 10? Well, it's possible. If they found Jean Humby was out and wanted to wait for her without being seen...
Aye, that's what I thought.
Okay, Humby.
Oh, here's Humby.
All right, Humby. Oh, hello, sir.
Beach. Hello, Frank.
Hi. He says nothing seems to be missing, sir.
You sure, Frank?
I'm sure.
Except the money. Frank, how many people knew about the Glen Oak robbery?
My wife didn't, if that's what you mean.
Not even where you'd hid the money?
No, damn you.
Well, who else, Frank? Your wife's dead and, well, you've seen the rest. Who else?
Just DL. You haven't got him yet, have you?
Can you tell us where to look?
No. Do you think I'd stand here and keep my mouth shut now?
I don't know, Frank. Oh, your daughter's on her way to Glasgow. Joe O'Brien contacted her.
Agnes? Look, I don't want to see her.
But she's your daughter.
She's not to get involved. She's just a kid. If you want to do me any kind of favour, keep her out of this.
We'll try, if that's what you want.
It is.
All right, Beach. Take him back to Berlin.
And get a receipt. One prisoner returned. If we don't stick to the routine, then headquarters start moaning.
All right, sir. Okay, come on, Humby.
Serial message number 22, timed 1245 hours. Special search requested for a red...
Constable Beach.
Sir?
Registration...
Turn that damn thing down.
Oh, sorry, sir. I didn't know you were back, sir.
I could have crept in and stolen the flaming office from under here. Any messages for me?
Yes, sir. Sergeant McLeod phoned in.
Well?
He said to tell you that Joe O'Brien seems to have vanished.
Damn.
And, here's the rest of it, sir. I typed it out for you.
Ah, thanks. Look, find some tea and sandwiches for two. Inspector Moss himself.
Yes, sir. What kind of sandwiches, sir?
Oh, anything short of old boots. I'll be in my office.
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
Phil. Yes? Come on through.
Aye, right you are. Well, what's up now?
Uncle Joe O'Brien. McLeod says he's scarpered.
O'Brien?
Somebody phoned that billiard saloon he runs and he just took off.
What else does Mac say?
Wait a minute, I haven't read this through. Well, most of it's Jean Humby. He's still raking round. So far he's found a taxi driver who drove her out from the city last night.
Home?
No, she paid him off a couple of streets short of Gradient Terrace, about 9:30.
She was killed in the flat less than an hour later. After phoning O'Brien and telling him to come round.
Now it looks as though a man and a woman were waiting for her.
Why didn't she take the taxi all the way home?
Well, that's what Mac's trying to find out now. Phil, we're going to have to find Joe O'Brien.
Aye, but how?
Oh, I'll get it. Thane?
Chief Inspector, it's George Greenlaw here, Glenholt.
Yes, Mr. Greenlaw. Something wrong?
No, but I've just seen our night watchman. He tells me Mrs. Humby turned up at our warehouse about 9 last night.
Oh, we didn't know that. What did she want?
Barbara MacPhail's home address. The watchman refused, of course.
Barbara MacPhail? Does she know about this?
Not yet.
Keep it that way.
If you say so, though, well, I can't see her really being involved, can you?
Anything's possible, I suppose. Mr. Greenlaw, while we're talking, tell me, how much pilfering goes on at your plant?
Petty stuff. A few bottles now and again, I suppose. DL and Humby weren't robbing us by installments, if that's what you're wondering.
Well, thanks for calling.
Any time, Chief Inspector.
Bye.
What was that about?
George Greenlaw, the Glenholt boss. Jean Humby was out looking for DL's girlfriend.
Any chance DL and his girlfriend were out looking for Jean Humby?
She's a nice kid, Phil.
They're the worst.
Phil, the sandwiches. Spoil yourself. Have them all.
What?
Well, I'm going out for lunch after all, and I'm inviting a certain customs man to join me.
A customs man? Why?
Just a notion. I think I'd like to know more about this Glenholt outfit.
A nice place you picked, Chief Inspector. I've never eaten here before.
Oh, believe me, I only use it when I want a favor from someone. Yeah, salt.
Thanks. A favor from me?
Well, let's say from Customs and Excise. For our mutual benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Kelso, you're a Customs and Excise surveyor, which means, in some ways, you've more powers than a plain, ordinary cop.
Oh, it's nice of you to say so.
For instance, you can demand or force entry into a house or building and search it without having to worry about a warrant.
In the course of duty, yes, but without adequate reason, no.
Well, I wouldn't ask you without giving you adequate reason.
I see. Pass the butter, will you?
Oh, yeah, here. This Glenholt whiskey liqueur outfit. I'm interested in them.
Well, I'll tell you what whiskey means to Customs and Excise. Over £300 million a year in collected duty. Buy a bottle in Britain and at least 3/4 of what you pay is tax.
I know, it's a crime.
It's one of the biggest single sources of internal revenue in this country. So, you take distilleries. There's a customs man at every one. Living on the premises, he holds all the keys, and he has to know what happens to every drop of whiskey produced.
You're thorough. So, what about Glenholt?
Safe breaking, murder? Not my territory, sorry. Glenholt's an old firm. It had to be sold for death duties a couple of years back, and that's when Greenlaw's company took over. Before that, Greenlaw managed a distillery. He's done quite well.
How close an eye do you keep on the firm?
Not particularly close. The rules say duty has to be paid before whiskey is used in compounding. Duty's what we're interested in.
Then the secret recipe takes over.
Secret? No, that's publicity stuff. Any laboratory can crack a recipe. We know what's in Glenholt whiskey liqueur. So do their competitors, and vice versa.
This duty business, I thought export sales were duty-free.
They are, but we refund only after we've seen the shipments leave. And we carry out warehouse inspections all the time to make sure everything's in order.
And is everything in order?
At Glenholt? I'd stake my pension on it against this excellent meal, Chief Inspector.
Afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, Sergeant. Chief Superintendent Ilford's expecting me.
You mentioned it, sir. He felt you must have been delayed.
Thanks for the warning.
He's free now.
Thanks.
Thane. Enjoy your lunch?
Yes, sir.
It seems to have been a lengthy one. Well, close the door and sit down.
Sir?
A safe breaking and a murder. Thane, without your Millside division, my job as head of CID would be a damned sight easier.
I know what you mean, sir.
I wonder. Look at this desk. I'm not a policeman anymore. However, I've read your reports. There's a certain reticence about them, unlike your usual positive style.
Well, that's how I feel about it, sir.
1 dead, 2 missing. Well, 2 unavailable, at any rate. DL, your chief suspect, and this, Uncle Joe. Any chance of a link between them?
I doubt it, sir.
And this mention of the McPhail girl.
Well, I don't know, sir.
What are you doing about that?
Well, just in case she and DL were the couple seen on the balcony before Mrs. Humby was killed.
That's what I had in mind.
This local girl and boyfriend. We'll have them in an observation van outside the Glenholt offices when Barbara McPhail leaves this evening.
Good. How's Humby himself reacting to it?
Shocked. And something else, too. Well, I'd say deeper.
Remorse? Probably blames himself for his wife's death, with reason. Well, don't look for any help from the Scientific Bureau. Dan Lawrence says they've drawn a blank so far. And, Keep me in the picture, Thane.
Of course, sir, of course, sir.
Millside Division strikes again. Why couldn't they have built Millside in Edinburgh? Or anywhere but here?
Well, here you are again. The Glenalt offices. Want me to come with you, Colin?
No, just give me that again.
Register as Scottish companies. Glenalt is listed with a nominal share capital of £20,000. Only 3 director shareholders, George Greenlaw, Greta Adele, and a chartered accountant called Jimison Roth.
Aye, most of them have one, sir.
What's that, Ericsson?
An accountant, sir.
Oh. I forgot we'd a driver who's moving into the legal profession.
The accountant usually is a front man for some bank or outside interest. He just does what they tell him.
You're a little mine of information, aren't you?
Any time I can help the Inspector.
Look, Phil, organise the observation van routine.
On Barbara McPhail?
On the lot of them here. And stay with it. Then call me back at Millside.
Right. Observation. Ah, well, it's time I had a rest.
Oh, back again, Chief Inspector. Oh, Mr. Greenlaw's out, I'm afraid.
That's all right, Barbara. I wanted a word with you.
Oh? What about?
Did you ever meet Mrs. Humby?
Oh, yes. Oh, just once, though. She came to the office to collect Frank Humby's wages. He was off sick.
How well did you know Frank Humby?
Oh, he was just one of the drivers. I spoke to him now and again.
I see. Barbara, do you mind telling me your movements after work for the last couple of nights?
Oh, Barbara, I'd ask him why first.
Hello, Miss Riddell.
I thought I heard someone out here. Barbara?
Yes, Miss Riddell?
There are some questions you don't answer without a lawyer in your handbag.
Thanks, but I don't mind.
Well?
Well, I share a flat with a girlfriend, and we were there together all Wednesday evening. That's our wash and iron night.
And last night?
I was out. Alone. I was looking for Douglas.
Douglas dear? Where?
Oh, places we'd been, just in case he'd show up. But he didn't.
What time did you get home?
After 11. I can't be sure. But my flatmate was in when I got back.
Well,
thanks, Barbara. We'll want to check, but that's all for now.
Better go while you've got the chance, girl. There are some invoices waiting to be filed on my desk.
I'll do that. Goodbye, Chief Inspector.
Goodbye, Barbara.
You practically scared her to death.
But not you.
I've been around a little longer than she has.
And now you're a company director, Miss Riddell.
So you've been checking on me, too?
On everyone, but the office cat. It's routine.
Famous last words. Anything else you want while you're here?
I'd like to see your foreman again.
Ed Yule? Oh, sorry. He's out on a delivery run. He won't be back till late.
Well, there's no hurry. How long has he been with you?
Since we started. He worked with George when George managed a distillery. He joined us when we set up.
And you, Miss Riddell?
Simple. George is an old friend. We got together and decided to buy this business, then floated the extra money we needed from a finance house. Anything else?
No, nothing.
A pity. I'd have liked to hear something about you for a change, Chief Inspector. You interest me. You really do.
Millside 4456.
Oh, Mary. Your loving absent husband.
Hello, Colin. Dare I ask when you're coming home?
I don't know, Mary. Not till later.
Maybe not at all. The papers say there should be an early arrest.
I wish they were right. How are things?
Oh, I'm leading my usual riotous life.
Uh-huh.
Baking. It was meant to be a layer cake, but it turned out a disaster.
A new recipe?
No, it was the same damn baking powder. A new brand. Well, it was the same, but... Oh, well, it must have been different, if you know what I mean.
Vaguely. Anyway, I'll try and call back.
All right, Colin. Bye.
Bye, Mary. Layer cake. What now? Yep.
There's a Miss Humby out here, sir. Miss Agnes Humby. She'd like to see you.
Oh, yes, of course. Show in, please.
Right, sir.
Humby's daughter. Oh, well, let's get it over with. Come.
Miss Humby, sir.
Thanks, Beach.
Sir.
Miss Humby, I'm Chief Inspector Thing.
Chief Inspector?
I'm sorry we have to meet under these circumstances.
It's not your fault, is it?
No. Won't you sit down?
Thank you. Mr. Thane, one of your police cars met me at the airport and took me out to the prison.
I thought that might make it easier.
It did. But my father wouldn't see me. Just wouldn't. Why not?
Well, if he doesn't want to, we can't make him.
That's not what I asked.
He said he just didn't want you to get involved, Agnes.
You should have thought about that for my mother, too.
Look, I know how you feel, Agnes. Did your mother let you know he'd been arrested?
No. She hadn't much time, had she? Do you know who killed her?
Not yet.
Well, my father deserves all he gets. That's why I want to see him. To tell him he can rot in jail as far as I'm concerned. I loved my mother.
Agnes, your mother stuck by him.
And ended up dead. Well, if you need me, I'll be staying with my Uncle Joe.
Oh, well, he's gone out of town, Agnes. In fact, we're looking for him.
You mean he's keeping out of the way? That's my Uncle Joe. Well, I can still use his place. I've got a key. Chief Inspector.
Yes?
I want to ask you about the funeral.
Of course. Goodbye, Miss Humby.
Goodbye.
That's over. Oh, damn, what now? Thane?
It's Sergeant MacLeod, sir.
Oh, Mac. I'd almost forgotten you existed. You got anything?
Aye, I think so, sir. You know how I've been trying to find out what Mrs. Humby was doing that night?
Yes, go on.
Well, I think the answer might be an old rascal called Peaky Rafferty. He sells papers just about where Mrs. Humby left that taxi.
And what about him?
Well, he just hasn't shown up at his stance today, sir. I thought...
You thought right. Where does he live?
Cannon Street, sir. Number 142.
Get straight round there, Mac. Now, I'll get a car and come straight up.
Right, sir.
Right. 142 Cannon Street.
142 Cannon Street, sir.
Thanks, Erickson. Keep an ear on that radio.
Right, sir.
What?
Hello, son. What are you doing here?
Playing.
Playing at what?
Just playing.
There's a Mr. Rafferty stay here.
You mean Peaky Rafferty? Aye. One up left, mister.
Thanks.
Mister!
What?
You from the fuzz?
Yes. Suppose I am. Why?
Who else comes to see Peaky?
What? I wouldn't know. One up left. Here we are. Anyone in? Sergeant MacLeod? Mac. Mac, where are you?
In here, sir.
Mac, what the hell happened?
Sir,
Look, I'll give you a hand up.
No, just give me a minute, sir.
Of course. Take it easy.
Oh, my head. I walked in here and somebody thumped me.
Hey, mister! What's wrong with him?
What are you doing in here?
I came to see. Is he no well?
It's something like that. Look, son, run downstairs. Tell the man in the police car to get up here.
Who says?
You'll know. Now move.
All right, mister.
Now, Mac, tell it again. You got here. What about the door?
Well, it was closed, but it wasn't locked. Anyway, the lock, it's the kind you could open with a strip of celluloid and a deep breath.
And I know someone who could do just that. Then?
Oh, that's about it, sir. I came in and thump.
How long ago?
Oh, I don't know, sir. Maybe 5 minutes, maybe more.
You worry me, sir?
Hey, Sarge. He's all right. Give me a hand up with him.
Right, sir. Come on, Sarge.
Is he all right now, mister?
Yes. Are you back again?
I might be a fuzz when I grow up, but a real one, in uniform.
Wait a minute, son. When you were playing down there, did you see anyone leave here? Come down the stairs, I mean.
No. I was playing down the street, mister. That big boy's chasing me.
I wonder where Rafferty is now.
I know.
Eh? Where?
My ma says he's in the Central Police pokey. He got arrested for being drunk last night. She says Peaky drinks too much.
Thanks, son. Here. Take this and buy yourself some sweets, eh?
Here, thanks, mister. Cheer, mister!
£2 or 20 days. That's what I got, Mr. Thane. Just for a wee bit of singing and shouting.
The police report says you were stoned.
Me? A wee bit, maybe. What brings a CID big shot visiting me in a cell, eh?
Do you know Frank Humby?
Aye, sure.
Did you see Mrs. Humby last night?
Aye, twice. She'll have told you.
She's dead, Peaky. She was murdered last night.
God save us. Oh, she was a decent woman, that one. Nobody told me. You don't get the newspapers in here, you know. Not that often, anyway.
Peaky, I'm in a hurry. When did you see her?
She come up to my house about 6 last night. Murdered.
And the second time?
Well, I was at my paper's pitch in Stanford Avenue. She passed me in a taxi, and then the taxi stopped, and she walked back to talk to me again. Said she wanted to make sure she had everything right.
Everything about what?
About me seeing Frank the night before he was lifted for the robbery job, Mr. Thane.
And when was that?
A wee bit after midnight. He walked up and bought a paper from an early edition with the Doug results.
Did he say where he'd been?
No, and I didn't ask. Not Frank, but...
Well?
Well, I heard a car draw up just before he appeared. Then it drove past a wee black car with a woman driving it. If Frank had been out with some woman his wife didn't know about, that was none of my business.
But you told Mrs. Humby?
Well, she gave me a couple of quid. She said it was important, might get him out of the jail.
Can you describe the woman in the car?
Not very well. She had dark hair, kind of long, I think it was.
All right, Peaky. And the last question. Why did Jean Humby come to see you?
Well, she remembered Frank coming in with the newspaper and telling her he'd got it from me.
I see.
Mr. Thane, any chance you pay my fine? It's only a couple of quid.
Peaky, you're safer where you are. Believe me.
Well, I suppose the meals are regular.
Millside CID, Chief Inspector Thane's office. No, this is Inspector Moss. Look, call back, will you? We're busy right now.
Anything?
Oh, nothing that matters, Colin. Headquarters wanting some statistics.
Statistics. Are we cops or computers?
Well, they can wait for them. All right, Dan. What's so important you came out here?
The Scientific Bureau tramps again. A wee bit late, maybe, but...
Better late than never, we know.
Yeah, you're also to stay quiet, Joe. Now listen, both of you. Remember how the back was off that stereo at Humby's flat?
Well, we found the empty bank bag.
Right. Well, look at these. These are the screws that were removed from it. Fair enough.
Right. So?
That's a rented stereo. The rental firms don't like customers poking around inside the guts of their equipment. So a good few of them always put a wee dab of red paint on each screw head at the back, like a seal. If the paint's disturbed, they know someone's been at it.
I don't follow you, Dan.
You will. These screws have only one set of markings. Even under an ordinary jeweller's glass, there's no mistake. It was a small bladed screwdriver badly worn on one shoulder. Find me that screwdriver, it's as good as a fingerprint.
I see.
Do you? Can you tell me how the devil the money got inside the set in the first place, when the back was only taken off once?
Once?
Once. Well, Colin, you don't look too surprised.
I don't think I am, Dan. It ties in. Another fake.
A fake?
Humby framed himself for robbery, and we fell for it.
He framed himself?
To cover up something bigger. And the only thing that went wrong was that Jean Humby got in the way after he was arrested.
Well, I've done my wee bit. Time I got back.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks a lot.
Any time. Miracles performed twice daily.
Aye, that'll be right.
Colin, what the hell's going on?
Well, I'm beginning to get an idea. It's just a beginning, Phil.
Well, I can tell you this much. These two youngsters I had in the observation van didn't identify anyone. And Barbara MacPhail walked straight past us.
But there's been a dark-haired woman turning up all through this, Phil.
Greta Rodell's a blonde.
Whoever she is, that woman remembered seeing Peaky Rafferty. If he hadn't got drunk and been arrested...
We could have another body in our hands, eh?
Yeah, well, we nearly did. Mac took a real clout. Yes.
Sir, Agnes Humby's back. She's got Joe O'Brien with her, sir.
O'Brien? Send them right in.
Right, sir.
Uncle Joe. First he vanishes, then he pops back up. What the hell has he been?
Come in.
In here, please, Miss Humby. You too, O'Brien.
Thanks, Beach.
That's up.
Well, now, this is a surprise.
For me too, Chief Inspector.
I brought him, Mr. Thane. He's got something to tell you, haven't you, Uncle Joe?
Now, look, lass, I
Uncle
don't...
Joe.
Sit down, both of you. Phil?
Sure. Cheers. Here you are.
Thanks.
O'Brien, do you know there are police looking for you over half the country?
I never thought
He never
there'd be
does. But he turned up about half an hour ago, and when I found out where he's been...
I should have kept my mouth shut.
That would have made you an even bigger fool. My mother was your sister, wasn't she?
Yes, but...
Where were you, O'Brien? And I want it straight.
Well, Aberfoyle. It's out in the country. About 30 miles from here.
We know where it is. Tourist land. But what were you doing there?
He was at a bank, making sure my loving father's money was safe.
O'Brien?
Look, I've done nothing wrong, Mr. Thane.
Just tell it. What kind of racket is Frank Humby involved in?
I don't know. I just know about the money he's been making, and that's just because he wanted to be sure there was always someone on the outside who could look after Jean and wee Agnes here.
I wouldn't touch his money. My mother's dead.
Easy, Miss Humby.
How much money is there, Joe?
About 7,000 quid. It's in a bank at Aberfoyle. Frank opened an account there about a year back. He said he was a salesman and gave my address. He made it so I was authorised to draw cash at any time.
How much did you get paid?
I did it for free, Mr. Thane. Well, I mean, nearly for free.
And why the disappearing act?
Well, I phoned the bank to make sure there'd be no snags about drawing the money, I mean. And I didn't tell them Frank was inside, of course. The manager phoned back to say it was okay, but I'd need to sign a couple more forms and get a checkbook. And that's why I nipped up there.
Agnes, I'm glad you got him here.
Oh, I'm almost past caring. But where did my father get £7,000?
Good question. Well, Uncle Joe?
No all at once, but it came steady, I know that.
Why Aberfoyle?
Well, he said it was handy. He was out there a lot, and it was well clear of the city.
When he went to Aberfoyle, what did he do, apart from put money in the bank?
I don't know. Well, except, once when he had a bucket in him, he told me about a place there, a sort of big swamp. Oh, nasty by the sound of it. Flanders Moss, I think he called it. He said every time he had to go there, it gave him a shivers.
Flanders Moss?
All right, Agnes.
Yes?
Take him home and keep him there.
Wait a minute.
There'll be a cop outside to make sure you don't leave, O'Brien.
All right.
Come on, Uncle Joe.
I don't know all the fuss is about.
I wish I did too, Colin. Know what it's all about, I mean, but I'm beginning to get a good idea, and I don't like it.
We've a fake robbery. A man in jail waiting trial for that robbery who has a cast-iron alibi but won't use it. His wife finds out...
And tells someone, so she gets killed. But Humby...
There's only one reason I can think of strong enough to keep him quiet. Murder. Another murder.
Douglas DL.
Well, that's how I see it, Phil. Humby daren't talk because that robbery charge is his alibi for something else.
And this Flanders Moss place...
named after you. Phil, get the car out front of
Aye,
me.
right.
I'll phone the county police. We'll need some kind of a guide. Then I've 2 other calls to make to headquarters and to customs and excise. We're going to need help on this. Help all round.
Good evening, sir. Sergeant Davis, County Police.
Sergeant?
And this is Alistair McSorn.
Aye. Mr. McSorn.
You wanted someone who knows this bogland. Well, there's none better.
Aye, well, I hope you're right. Is that it?
Aye, that's it. One big peat bog. Thousands of acres of it.
How well do you know it, Alistair?
Oh, I earn my living in there. I'm a vermin trapper for the Forestry Commission. They're reclaiming a lot of the land.
Are there many paths across the bogland?
Aye, a few.
And if you go off them?
Oh, then you're in trouble. I've seen a deer sucked under before now.
You've been told what we're after.
Aye. And I think I maybe know where to look. I tend to my traps at night, Chief Inspector. Now, there was a car out along the Kelpie path a couple of nights back. Only a damned fool or somebody who knows his place would drive there.
You'll take us?
Aye. We walk for here. There's a shortcut way.
Wait till we get these welly boots on.
Aye, and both of you, you stay close, you understand?
We'll be breathing down your neck, believe me.
Is it much further, Alistair?
No. Careful now. Oh,
Damn.
get up! I've got you!
Yep.
I warned you.
You're calling that stuff's like porridge.
Alistair. There's the kelpie path. See where that high myrtle shows a break. I will be there in a moment. Chief Inspector.
Yes?
Look. Tire marks. Here on the soft shoulder. No, stay where you are. The tire marks stop here. Well, if there's any searching to be done off the path, I'll do it.
Oh, he's right, sir. It may look the same, but it's different just a yard or so off this path. Different and dangerous.
Yes, Sergeant.
Aye, Alistair.
Let's have these probing rods you're carrying.
Here we are.
Well, this could take a wee while, I'll warn you.
How long did it take, then?
About an hour, sir. And it's DL, all right. We'll have to wait for the post-mortem, but it looks like he was killed the same way as Jean Humby.
And now it's over to Customs and Excise, Mr. Kelso.
We're ready, Thane. Chief Superintendent Ilford didn't waste time getting things organized.
That's what our scientific bureau is for, Mr. Kelso. Superintendent Lawrence has all you asked for waiting. This way.
Now, is everybody here now?
Yes, you can go ahead, Dan.
Mr. Kelso, you'd better do the explaining.
In a moment. Just let me check. Yes, yes, that's fine. Well?
Keep it simple, will you, Mr. Kelso?
I'll try. Gentlemen, what we have here is a gas chromatography unit. Briefly, it gives an infinitely fine, detailed analysis of any substance we can convert to liquid form. The readings tell us in graph form the chemical ingredients and the quantities present. You follow me?
So far, I think.
Good. We compare the readings against known standards, and we can tell exactly what is in anything.
You should try it on the canteen sausages. Sorry, Mr. Kelso.
Quite. Now, take whiskey. Superintendent Lawrence and I tried a little party trick before you got here, Thane. He drank a glass of whiskey. I took a sample of his breath afterwards.
And he damn well identified the brand from the fumes.
Oh, I'll volunteer for that one any time. You mean it's positive? Absolutely positive.
Whiskey is quite simple, Chief Inspector. What makes one whiskey different from another is the tiny aromatics and chemical traces from the water, the grain, the distiller's plant, any number of things.
Yes, we understand all that.
The first sample, then. Bulk whiskey from the Brannock distillery. According to our records, all whiskey used by the Glen Old Company to make their whiskey liqueur is bought from Brannock distillery. This is a Customs and Excise sample. Superintendent?
Going through now. Right.
There's your graph. Brannock distillery. Now, Glen Old whiskey liqueur. The graph will be different, I warn you, because of the essences they use. But even so... Superintendent?
Glen Old, going through now. And there's your second graph.
Now, side by side. Thane, and you, Inspector Moss, look at them closely.
They're different, all right.
Two sets of wiggly lines. Sorry, that's all I see.
Ah, yes, but notice this high peak in the Brannock sample.
Uh-huh.
It should be in the Glen Old sample, but it isn't.
Maybe it just got lost.
No. Another whiskey was used. One Customs don't know about, and legally that is impossible.
Then your hunch was right, Thane. Stolen whiskey.
Well, that's how I see it, sir.
What gave you the idea?
Well, my wife baked a cake, sir. She used the wrong baking powder. It was the same, but different. Then, well, someone said pretty much the same thing about the bogland.
I won't claim to follow you, but stolen whiskey. Now we're getting somewhere.
But from the Customs viewpoint, it's impossible. We take every precaution. We check their export shipments. I know the Glen Old Company are still buying their usual supplies from the Brannock distillery.
Customs check their export shipments, yes, because you've got to refund them any duty paid. But what's to stop them operating a legitimate export trade with legitimate stock, but boosting their home market sales with stolen liquor?
Is it possible, Mr. Kelso?
Well, with some clever bookkeeping, yes, I suppose so.
Robbery, fraud, and tax evasion. But would it be worth murder? 2 murders.
Mr. Kelso, Suppose I stole a lorry load of whiskey. How much money would be involved?
Well, let me see. Say 30 casks, each 100 gallons. Well, I'd have to work it out. Say a duty-paid value of around £40,000.
For just one lorry load. Satisfied, Phil?
How many big whisky thefts have there been recently?
Quite a number. I'm having a full list prepared. But we've looked for one. The one you suggested, Thane.
Mm-hmm.
3 years ago, a lorry load of whiskey was hijacked and never found. The driver wasn't suspected at the time. His name was Edward Yule.
And the distillery, sir?
The one George Greenlaw was managing. And Yule is now foreman with Greenlaw at Glenault.
So that's how they got their stake to set up in business, eh?
Chief Superintendent, I think there's something I'd better tell you.
Yes?
Well, I was expecting a visitor this afternoon. A man telephoned a few days ago. He wouldn't give his name, but he said he could give me information about an evasion of excise duty on whiskey. He wanted to know if there would be a reward, and he wanted a guarantee we wouldn't reveal where the information came from.
Can you do that?
Yes, on both counts. He said he needed another day or two, and then he'd bring the proof. And that was to be this afternoon. Well, he didn't show up. It could have been a hoax, I suppose, but...
It could have been Douglas DL. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, it was a young man's voice.
Well, now we can guess why he was killed, eh?
Thane, I want you to have another try at Frank Humby in the morning.
I don't see us getting much there, sir.
Agreed, but do it anyway. Then, this dark-haired woman we've heard about. You rule out Barbara MacPhail.
Absolutely, sir.
And the Riddell woman is a blonde.
They're probably out of a bottle. Hey, what about a wig?
Why not? Does she own a car?
I think so. We've some other checking to do. That bank at Aberfoyle, for instance.
There's a way I can help, too. I could find out quite easily about stocks of bottles, materials like essences, how much they've bought in. Then compare it with how much legitimate production the Glenault plant should have had.
You can help more than that, Mr. Kelso.
How?
Well, first, like the rest of us, you'll say nothing about DL's body being found.
Well, of course. Anything else I can do?
Yes. But it means you're going to be staying up late.
Thane, I still don't know I like this.
It's simple. The Glenault warehouse is round the corner. Customs and Excise have the power to force entry and search any building without a warrant. We haven't.
I know,
Mr. Kelso, don't you want to find if they've a damned great pile of stolen whiskey in there?
Of course.
Then let's get on with it.
Erickson, switch off. Sir. Kelso, did you bring that sampling kit?
Yes, I've everything here.
Erickson, you know your part.
Walk round to the main gate, chat up the watchman. I'm just a wandering uniform cop who'd like a cup of tea somewhere and doesn't care if there's a war going on down the road.
Just act natural. You'll do.
But keep him occupied. We'll give you a couple of minutes, then we'll go in through the office door.
How?
These, Mr. Kelso. Skeleton keys. We fell heir to them after an arrest last month.
Right, Phil, we're in. Now lock it again.
Aye.
Kelso. Yes. Wait till I get this torch going. That's her locked, Colin. Right, Kelso, lead the way. Now the door from here into the compounding plant. Along this corridor.
What the hell are we all whispering for? This is legal, isn't it?
Look, just move, Phil. Come on. And keep those keys handy.
Here we are. It's locked.
Oh, here we go again. Open sesame.
And there are your casks, Kelso.
Let me check them. Yes. Yes, these are the Brannock Distillery casks. Legitimate enough.
Depends what's in them, doesn't it?
Oh, you mean they could have refilled them?
Well, it would make sense. Well, I'm not suggesting the whole staff here are on the crook.
Well, I'll draw samples.
Then can you check those vats for me? I want to know how much liqueur is ready for bottling.
Yes, but I don't...
Phil and I want to take a look around.
All right. Just remember to come back, will you?
What are we looking for?
Another store, Phil. Now, it should be somewhere near.
Yeah, there's a sort of grill here, low down on the wall. It's just the size of an air vent.
But from where? That's the outside wall. Unless...
Let's try it.
There's another door along here.
All right, but go quietly.
Erickson better be keeping that watchman busy. Nothing this side, Colin.
Wait a minute.
Yes, here, Phil.
What is it? Oh, that hatch.
Marked maintenance only.
Aye, it's pretty rusty.
Ah, yes, but this padlock's well greased. See what you can do, Phil.
Okay. Ah, this one, I think. Yes. Lift it now.
Torch, Phil. Keep it shaded.
Torch.
Well,
this is it, all right.
8 casks. Hold this hatch lid, Phil. I'll take a look at them. Don't get stuck down there. Any names on them? Hold on. Yes. This one's Special Cruachan. And the others, well, I think they're the same. Look, I'm coming back up.
Yeah?
Oh, right.
What's that you got?
Mud, Phil. They're covered in dried mud.
Like they've been in a bog, you mean?
Like they've been in a bog. There's some rubber tube and a hand pump down there, Phil. They can tap these casks from here and refill the legitimate casks through that grill.
A little bit of weekend work while the staff are away, eh? Neat. Now what?
Get Kelsey over here. He can draw more of his samples. And then we'll get the hell out of it.
It's fantastic. Once I've checked out these samples.
There's something more important right now. You checked those vats, or whatever they're called,
Yes.
and you saw the casks.
Mhm.
Now, this is Friday night. Have they enough whiskey in stock for a normal production on Monday?
Well, not really. Both vats are practically empty, and most of the casks are the same. They'll need a delivery from...
From somewhere. Legitimate or on the crook.
Or both, eh?
Does the Glenalt plant operate on Saturdays?
No, but the office is usually open.
Good. I think I'll make a little call on them.
You have to see Frank Humby too, remember?
Afterwards, Phil. He'll keep where he is. All right, Erickson.
Sir?
We're all going home for some sleep. Tomorrow could be a busy day.
Good morning, Glenalt Distilleries. Yes? Hold on a moment, please, will you? Hello, Chief Inspector. I won't be a moment.
No rush, Barbara.
Hello, Paula. Yes, just a moment and I'll connect you. There. Sorry about that.
Busy?
Oh, not on a Saturday. The office staff are only in for a couple of hours. Chief Inspector, have you any news of Douglas yet?
No, we haven't, Barbara, not yet.
Oh.
Are you on your own, Barbara?
Yes, everybody else is having their coffee break just now. Except, well, I think Mr. Greenlaw may be back in a couple of minutes.
Barbara, we need your help.
Oh?
There's a chance you could help us prove young DL innocent. Will you do it?
Oh, whatever you want, yes.
For a start, how well do you get on with Greenlaw and Greta Riddell?
All right, I suppose.
And how have they been these last few days?
Well, it's difficult. They both seemed edgy, I suppose is the word.
Barbara, you're going to have to trust me on this, and I've got to trust you.
Yes?
That office switchboard. For the rest of this morning, I want you to make a note of any calls made by Greenlaw, Greta Riddell, or Ed Yule.
But, Chief Inspector...
Don't take any risks, but if you can listen into their calls, do it. When you stop work, come straight to me.
You mean you think they're involved? But then why did Douglas run away?
There are some things I can't answer yet, Barbara. Did Douglas ever talk to you about the firm's account books?
He never got near them. Greta Riddell does that side all on her own.
Always?
Well, even when she was off ill with flu a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Greenlaw said he wasn't to touch them.
But Douglas would still be left on his own.
Oh, yes, more or less, anyway.
Who's Greta Riddell's hairdresser?
A hairdresser?
Yes.
I don't know, but I could try to find out.
I'd be obliged. Hello, Phil. What are you doing here?
Get in and I'll tell you.
Oh, like that. Well?
You were going out to the prison to see Frank Humby next.
That's right.
Don't bother. They found him dead in his cell this morning. He hanged himself.
Yes. Hanged himself then.
Well, there's no doubt why.
No, I suppose there isn't, sir.
But that's not the only reason I came over to Millside Division. The whole situation is in a, well, delicate stage. I want to be sure of what's happening.
Here's the post-mortem report on Douglas Dale.
No, thanks.
Exactly the same as for the Humby woman.
Yes, here's the summary. Death due to asphyxia. Small surface bruising, minute underskin hemorrhage around the mouth and nostrils.
And a blow in the back of the head first. Another burking.
I just hope we can trust this MacPhail girl. She still doesn't know.
That was my decision, sir.
I'm glad it wasn't mine. Now, the bank at Aberfoyle.
Aye, the county police took care of that, sir. Joe O'Brien's right. Humby's account with him has a cash balance of £7,000, plus a parcel Humby handed in late on Thursday afternoon.
Well?
Another 3,000 in banknotes, sir.
The money from the Glen Oat safe?
We'll assume it was his fee for his part in taking care of DL.
Paid in advance.
What sort of watch are you keeping on these people, Fane?
They're all under surveillance, sir. But if Kelso's calculations are right, they'll need to bring in fresh whiskey stocks this weekend.
And that's when we clinch it, eh?
Excuse me, sir. Yep.
Mr. Kelso from Customs and Excise, sir.
All right, Mac. Ask him to come in.
Sir.
Talk of the devil.
Burns.
Sir?
The deal's a war with the excise man.
Kelso would want to check his tax returns first.
Morning, Mr. Kelso. Come in.
Morning. Good morning, Chief Superintendent.
Morning, Mr. Kelso. Thanks for your help last night.
Well, less said about that.
But it worked out.
Yes, that's not why I came, Thane. I contacted the trade outlets I mentioned, bottle suppliers and essence suppliers. I thought you'd be interested in the results.
We are.
Balance them against the duty-paid whiskey stocks they're supposed to hold, and it looks as though Glen Oat has been producing at least one extra bottle of liqueur for every 3 we've known about. And that's being suitably conservative, of course.
Of course.
In cash terms?
Well, calculating the whiskey at its duty-paid value and subtracting the probable cost of essence and manufacturing...
Quite. How much profit?
£220,000 a year. Well, what happens now?
We wait, Mr. Kelso, till I hear from someone who's helping us. And this time, I think I'd better be here on my own.
I did what you wanted, Mr. Thane, though I felt a bit like Mata Hari, you know, spying.
What did you find out?
Well, about half an hour after you left, Mr. Greenlaw had a private meeting in his office with Mr. Adele. Then he made a telephone call. Here's a number. It was one of those truck rental firms. He talked to them about a lorry that has to be ready for this evening.
Good. This matters, Barbara. It matters a lot.
He made another call after that to Ed Yule. The warehouse people don't work on Saturdays.
Can you remember exactly what he said?
Oh, that's easy enough. He just said, Ed, we'll go ahead with the run as usual. He wanted to be at some place he called the Drove Track before dark.
The Drove Track. Just a minute, Barbara.
Sir?
Mac, tell Inspector Moss it's on for tonight. Some place called the Drove Track at dusk. He'll know what to do.
Right, sir.
Oh, and I found out about Greta Rodell's hairdresser, Mr. Thane. His name is Bellini. It's a shop in the High Street. One of the other girls knew.
You've done well, Barbara.
But what's it all about? I mean, how does all this help Douglas?
Barbara, I think you've earned the right to be told.
Told what?
The truth, Barbara.
The truth? Chief Inspector, something wrong.
We know where Douglas is, Barbara. We found him last night.
Found him?
He's dead, Barbara.
Dead?
Murdered. Like Jean Humby.
Oh, no.
Barbara, I said you could help him. I meant it. But this was the only way. You couldn't have done what you did this morning if you'd known the truth.
Do you think Mr. Greenlaw and the others...
Yes. Barbara, the best way people can help Douglas now is to put his killers where they belong, in a dock before a jury.
I think I'd better go home, Mr. Thane. I liked him a lot.
Of course. There's a car waiting for you. A policewoman will go back with you just in case you need her. For anything, Barbara. Anything at all.
You organize everything, don't you, Mr. Thane? Absolutely everything.
Don't be in your usual flaming hurry, Erickson. We've time to spare.
Right, sir. You had it rough from the sound of it.
She had it rough, you mean? What a hell of a way to prepare, Phil.
It goes with it, Joe. Come on, check this time.
Aye, right. The county police are waiting for us.
And know this drove track place. It's right in the heart of that damned bogland.
We know Greenlaw and Yule have collected that rental truck.
Early.
Oh, killing time, Phil. They won't want to be out there before dusk.
Which leaves Greta Riddell.
Cloud and Beach will collect her on schedule. And her car. They know what to do.
Collecting a woman. Oh, we've got to go back into that damn bogland again. Oh, here, I nearly forgot.
What?
Kelso, your customs pal, he'd phoned making noises about some spare whiskey samples. Said he couldn't find them.
Put it in my desk. Left them in the car last night.
Well, he says he's enough for the checks, but he thinks the spares are lost.
Does he?
Well, we've arranged everything like you asked, Chief Inspector.
I was relying on that, Sergeant.
we reckon to be upsides with most forces, sir. And, of course, Alistair McSorn came along.
I'm grateful, Mr. McSorn. I wouldn't like to head into that stuff out there without a guide.
Now, you could head in, Chief Inspector. It's the getting out again that might be difficult.
Where's Inspector Moss, sir?
Back at our car.
Oh, the radio, of course. Where's that map of yours, Alistair?
Oh, here, I'll spread it out in this boulder.
Good.
Yep.
Good. Now, sir, here's what's called the Drove Road. It just it comes to an end. There's one or two like it through Flanders Moss where somebody tried to build a new road but had to give up. It's not wide, mostly overgrown, and it's joined by a footpath. Here.
I see. So it's somewhere along that road.
Track's a better word for it, Chief Inspector. And I wouldn't worry about any other traffic.
So once they're in, we've got them bottled.
That's how we see it, sir.
Aye, they'll stop somewhere along that distance. Is there anywhere they could load a truck without being seen?
Aye, the far end. At this time of the year, the reeds and weeds are thick enough to make you think you were in a jungle.
And high enough, too. Well, sir?
Right, we let them get in, and then we block the track. But we're going to get them on foot.
But why not just drive up? I mean, they can't get away, except into the peat. And only a damned fool would try that.
Well, a desperate one. I don't want to risk a manhunt. Will you take us in, Alistair?
Oh, aye. It'll be easier than the last time. Most of the way, we'll use the footpath.
Colin?
Over here, Phil.
The truck's on its way, all right. The car trailing them just radioed. They've passed Aberfoyle, heading straight for here.
Then we'd better move.
Back in there again. Where's my welly boots?
It's got its attraction, Inspector Moss. When you know it.
I don't want to know it. Right now, I just want home.
Damn. Midges are eating me alive. City blood's a sort of treat for them, sir.
County comics we can do without, Sergeant. Hey, your clever pal has stopped.
Aye, but he's waving us to come on.
There's the Drove Road, Chief Inspector. Now stay quiet and listen. Aye, we're near them. Whatever they're doing.
Right, we'll get closer. Now as silent as you can. Aye. All of you.
If they're drown quietly.
There. Just ahead.
Aye, there's the truck. Tailboard down. Planks like a bridge up to it.
Greenlaw on that winch. Hey, where's his pal Yule?
The pulley chain goes into the scrub. Look, we'll get closer. Sergeant, you and McSorn ease round to the left.
Aye, sir. Come on, Alistair.
All right, Sergeant.
Come on, Ed. Hurry us up.
I'll work here as fast as I can, damn you.
We need another 6 of these cars.
I know. Right. Start winding.
That's how they load, Phil. The casks are hidden in the scrub and they winch them out and up.
Neat. Hey, how much do these things hold?
Kelso said 100 gallons each.
Then they need that winch. No?
Now, wait. Yeah. While they're getting it up to the tailboard. Now, Phil!
Nearly there, George. Keep winding.
Okay, steady your head. That's it.
All right, Greenlaw, leave it at that.
My God, it's thin.
You two, you. Run for it, Ed. Sergeant.
The winch, Greenlaw. Watch that winch.
The cask slipped.
Look out,
God, it took him with it. The thing's gone. Gone into that damned peat mud.
And Sergeant MacLeod.
Sarge, they're here.
Right. You're going to have company, Miss Rodell.
Better than yours, I hope.
Don't get too close to those claws of hers, Beach.
Oh, no, Sarge. Not after what she did to you.
Next time I'll do it better.
In you go, Greenlaw.
Thanks very much.
And now we're all together. Good.
I thought you'd be here, Greta.
You can even sit beside her.
Thanks.
If you're looking for Yule, Greta, don't. He had an accident.
What kind of accident?
A cask took him into the peat bog. How did you make out at Miss Riddell's flat, Sergeant?
Reasonable, sir. Show him, Beach.
There's this lot, sir. Some business ledgers, so on. She had a safe built in behind the bathroom cabinet.
Bank books, passports, money. The emergency fund, eh?
This one, sir.
I see. So it's Mr. and Mrs. Greenlaw.
It kept things in the family.
Quiet, George.
What happened to your face, Mike?
She went for me when we were opening the bathroom cabinet.
Well, this lot clinches it. You three and Frank Humby. You had a good run while it lasted.
While what lasted?
Oh, theft, fraud, evasion of duty.
Words. What about proof?
Greta, I have a feeling that after tonight, that's a formality. Theft, fraud, and evasion of duty. Well, what happens now, Chief Inspector?
Last night we got young DL's body out of Flanders Moss.
Last night? But
was it suicide?
You know better. He was murdered. The same way as Jean Humby.
Now, wait a minute.
With that kind of nonsense, we've a right to ask for a lawyer.
Oh, you'll get one soon. Phil.
Yes?
Just wait till I scribble this. Right. Phone Doc Williams and see if he says yes, will you? On my way.
Trying to worry us, Chief Inspector.
Just checking. There were 4 of you in this at the start. Now, well, there's only 2.
2?
Frank Humby hanged himself this morning. He couldn't take any more. You know why.
Do we? Chief Inspector, you better remember a husband and wife can't be forced to give evidence against one another. I suppose, well, maybe Humby killed DL. Then suppose it happened that Ed Yule killed Humby's wife. Just don't try to involve us in murder. Remember, it was Humby and DL who broke into our office.
We proved that was a phony a long time back.
Greta.
George, they're bumbling around, nothing more.
Then how would you explain Frank Humby getting home half an hour before your safe raiders were seen making their getaway?
So, he went off early.
We've checked several things. Yule lived in a boarding house. On the night of the robbery, he came in around 1:30 a.m. But on the night Jean Humby died, he was back by 10 p.m. So he couldn't have killed her.
Greta and I have our own alibi. We were together.
Convenient for you.
Go on, Colin. Doc Williams says yes.
Thanks, Phil. You got that knife we found in Greenlaw's pocket?
Uh-huh. Here it is.
An ordinary penknife. One blade, a screwdriver.
It's mine, so what?
Well, one side of the screwdriver tip is worn. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think happened.
Don't mind if I yawn.
Young DL was going to contact Customs and Excise. He stumbled across what you were doing. Foolishly, he confided in Frank Humby. Humby told you to. So you planned for DL to be killed, with Humby being paid to take a robbery rap, which would cover things up.
Nonsense. Just nonsense.
Be quiet. Somebody was hidden in the back of Humby's delivery van when he got back late to the warehouse. But DL was already dead by then. You gave Humby the robbery alibi. And while that was supposed to be going on, he was dumping DL's body out in Flanders Moss. Only your timing went wrong.
I'm not answering any of this crazy story.
All right. Let's talk about Jean Humby. She wanted to prove the police were wrong. And we were. She came to you for help, didn't she?
You heard my wife. We're not answering. We want a lawyer.
But Jean had it wrong. She thought Barbara MacPhail had been with her husband. But when Jean Humby got home, 2 people were waiting to kill her.
One, a woman with dark hair. I'm blonde, Chief Inspector.
And your hairdresser says you bought a dark wig a couple of months back for a party. Then this penknife, Greenlaw. I'll gamble the Scientific Bureau confirmed the screwdriver blade is the one used to take the back off that stereo set in Humby's flat. Now put your hands on the table. On the table, palms down. You too, Greta.
Why?
Do what you're told, woman.
Oh, all right.
I'll keep them there. I saw Yule's hands once we got him out of that bog. And now I've seen yours. Both DL and Jean Humby had small bruises round their faces, bruises caused by fingers gripping hard as they were killed.
I don't
He
really...
said keep them there.
Now, almost every one of those little bruises had a tiny, close to microscopic skin hemorrhage at one end. Sharp nails. And not Ed Yule's. His were broken and chewed. And yours are short, Greenlaw. Too short. They could have been cuts instead, of course.
No.
Fingernails are what's called keratin tissue. They grow at a steady rate. Now, what I asked Moss to find out was whether a forensic expert can look at someone's nails and say how long it is since they were last cut. Well, you heard the answer. Yes. But we don't need more than a glance at your nails, Greta, do we?
Prove it. Prove any of it.
Oh, we will in court. You used Humby to lure young DL and dump his body. You left Greenlaw and Yule to fake the break-in. You took Greenlaw with you to Humby's flat. Oh, yes. You're the one I want, Greta. You killed 2 people with your bare hands. What kind of a woman does that make you?
I've nothing to say. Nothing.
Sergeant MacLeod.
Sir?
You and Beach take them away. Formal caution and charge.
Yes, sir. All right, both of you. This way. Thane?
Well?
No, nothing. Move out.
That's it then.
That's it, Phil. Like a fact.
No, tar. Light?
Aye.
You'd better see this. It was telephoned in.
What is it?
A message from Kelso, your customs pal. He's getting worried about those whiskey samples he thinks you lost. He wants formal confirmation they weren't found.
Well, we'll send him a letter. Get a couple of glasses, Phil.
Eh? But that's his samples.
Aye, but we're due a taste of proof, Phil, aren't we?
2 glasses. Coming up.
That was The Taste of Proof by Bill Knox, with Paul Kermack as Chief Inspector Thane and Robert Trotter as Inspector Moss. The part of Frank Humby was played by Arthur Boland. Constable Beach, Michael Bruce. Sergeant MacLeod, Robert Docherty. Mary Thane, Mary Riggins. Doc Williams, Michael Elder. Dan Lawrence, Willie Joss. Joe O'Brien, Ian Ireland. Barbara MacPhail, Rose McBain. Greenlaw, Ian Dewar. Kelso, John Shetton. Greta Riddell, Claire Richards. Superintendent Ilford, John Young. And Agnes Humby, Jennifer Angus. The play was produced by Gordon Emsley.
David Haig stars as Norman Burkett in a true story of murder, mayhem and political intrigue set in 1928. Norman Burkett and the Case of the Coalford Poisoner by Caroline and David Stafford.
Behold, I show you a mystery.
Now, you just stay calm,
We
Mr.
shall
Mace.
not all
Here,
speak,
we can
but
handle
we
this.
shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible.
Excuse me, Reverend.
Let me go.
Get off me. Hold it,
Get off
Harry.
me! You gotta stop the funeral! He was murdered! Harry Pace was murdered by his missus. I knows it.
May the 29th, 1928. Sir, many Englishmen...
What is it?
The Daily Express. Sir, many Englishmen rightfully believe that one of the superiorities of their law over that of foreigners is the treatment of an accused person as innocent until he is proved guilty.
And is the writer an old colonel or an old major?
Colonel Harcourt Winterbottom.
I'm so glad. What is
It's about Annie Pace, the woman who poisoned her husband.
Oh, the Coalford poisoner. The Times did mention it.
The Express has it on pages 1 and 3 with an editorial on page 12. The Herald has 2 pages of photographs.
It is a corker, isn't it? The deceased brother interrupting the funeral to point the finger at his sister-in-law. It's as good as Sexton Blake. What's the Colonel have to say on the matter?
It's mostly about the interrogation. Many Englishmen must have been rudely shocked by the cruel treatment of Mrs. Pace, whose interrogation by Scotland Yard officers lasted 13 hours, during which time her children were neither fed nor allowed any other comfort.
He is right, of course.
That English is always better than foreign?
That a 13-hour interrogation is not very British. Give him the 3rd degree, Motsy. Did she do it?
She had every right to. Her husband treated her abominably.
If she'd set about him with a meat cleaver, she might plead self-defense, but it's a tricky one to pull off where poisoning's involved.
What possible alternative did she have?
To killing him?
She's a victim.
That's not how they taught it at Cambridge.
In a civilized country, this cruelty... There would be a remedy. The husband would go to prison and the wife granted an automatic divorce.
The Herald's not even paying lip service to impartiality. Many sympathizers are rallying to the cause of this distressed widow.
Oh. Mr. A.A. Purcell, Member of Parliament for the Forest of Dean...
Odious man. What about him?
...has already started a public subscription for the purpose of raising the necessary money for the defence of Mrs. Pace.
Heart on his sleeve, eye on the ballot box.
It is his hope that by such means the money will be found to provide for her the services of an eminent counsel at the trial. They will telephone.
No.
After the Denniston case, who else would they want? They will telephone. You will take the case. It will make you the most celebrated barrister in the country, and your vanity will be insufferable.
Only if I win.
They will telephone.
I'm not sure I'd accept anyway.
You will.
I'm not sure I'd want it.
It's marked 1,000 guineas.
Would it be appropriate, perhaps, if I said I'd forego the fee?
Not a good idea, sir, if you don't mind me saying. There's always a next time and a next time, isn't there?
Here or...?
Gloucester Assizes.
Prosecuting?
Merriman.
Oh, law. Seated?
Mr. Justice Horridge.
Horridge.
It's not that bad.
Solicitor General, most eminent judge on the circuit, and me. I feel as if I'm number 11 bat for the Ulverston boys sent in to face Larwood and Tilsley.
It'll put you with the immortals, sir. It's a great honour.
Or a poison chalice. Have you had a look?
You've got the press on your side.
I've seen. What's that one?
The World's Pictorial News. Turn over. Picture. Very distinguished you look, too.
Good Lord.
Annie Pace is the pretty rosy-cheeked widow. You're one of the finest counsels in England, and the editorial uses the word travesty 3 times.
So, if Mr. Justice Horridge flies in the face of legal precedent and rules that a leader from the World's Pictorial News is admissible evidence, we're in with a chance.
Slowing down again. Problem? Not so far as I can see. I was wondering whether we were near Coalford.
No, miles away. Coalford's the other side of Gloucester, in the Forest of Dean.
Never been there.
Ancient woodland. Very ancient. They do things differently in the Forest of Dean.
Only I read in the paper the train slows down when it passes Annie Pace's cottage at Coalford, so people can get a look.
Nowhere near.
They're doing charabanc tours.
They're not.
Advertised in the Gloucester papers. Brunswick Square to Coalford and back with commentary from a knowledgeable guide. 5 and 6. Bring sandwiches. And the house? Rose Cottage. But not a rose left in the garden. All picked for souvenirs. Morbid.
Is it just pruriens, though, do you think?
Sir?
This great wave of sympathy for Annie Pace. Something I've never seen quite so vividly in any other case. The murderess as victim. She's touched a nerve. The soul of the nation has been stirred. Daunting, though.
Beg your pardon, sir?
Conducting a criminal trial in the glare of the public gaze. If I lose...
You're not going to lose. That's why they chose you. The way you took the jury with you on the Denniston case, never heard such eloquence.
Well,
there's no one at that bar a patch on you for touching hearts and minds. It's a precious gift. If you don't mind me saying so, sir.
My wife wondered whether we'd be finished by Friday.
Next Friday?
I'd like to be home by next Friday.
Something special?
Linnell's birthday.
Oh, my goodness, she must be, what, 4?
5.
Oh, I'll have to sort it out a present.
That's a very kind thought, Edgar, but really you must.
Oh, they've got a very nice baking set I saw at Woolworths. A toy baking set. With all the pans and a little oven. Unless she's got one already.
I don't believe she has. No.
Probably a bit young for a post office set.
What's going on?
Can't see, sir.
Driver?
They've been there all week, sir. Crowd of women outside the prison. For Annie Pace? Of course.
Extraordinary.
There's hundreds of them. Floppers.
My God, she's touched a nerve.
I fear for the country.
Do you?
This next election, them, voting. I mean, I've nothing against women having the vote.
I'm glad to hear it.
So long as they're sensible.
Ah.
Which is why it made sense the old way. But women under 30, look at them.
The Liberal Party campaigned long and hard for truly universal suffrage.
I know that, sir, and in principle I'm with you all the way. Democracy is a wonderful thing, but in practice, you see, first time they go to the polls, we'll have Douglas Fairbanks in number 10.
Couldn't do much worse than Baldwin.
Don't they have parents?
Good morning, Mrs. Pace. My name's Bowker, Edgar Bowker, and this is Mr. Burkett, who will be defending you in court.
Pleased to meet you.
How are they treating you here, Mrs. Pace? Do you have everything you need?
Well, they've all been very kind. But I miss the children. I worry about little Jean.
Of course.
There are babies here. 4 of them. Sometimes I hear them crying at night. One of them's called Jean, too. I've been knitting some socks for her just to keep my mind off things. I managed 5 pairs so far.
Excellent. Now, Mrs. Pace, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you some questions of a delicate nature about your husband and the way he treated you during your married life.
I've been through all that with the police and the coroners.
Yes, I've read the accounts, but it's important I hear it from you personally, Mrs. Pace. Small, easily overlooked details can become very important in the courtroom.
Yes.
Now, you were married when you were 17.
That's right. After I lost my mother, I went into service down in London, but Harry wasn't having it. He said I had to come back and marry him, or he wouldn't be held responsible. So I did.
And in general, would you say the marriage was a happy one?
I think you know it was not.
Mr. Burkett does need to hear it in your own words. Mrs. Pace.
The beatings began nearly as soon as we set up home together as man and wife. He'd get angry with me. He was a very jealous man. And before you ask, he had no reason to be.
I'm sure.
He took his belt to me. First time it happened, I ran all the way home to my father's house. It was the middle of the night and I didn't know what else to do. He came after me, of course. He stood outside the house and shouted for me.
Forgive me for asking, Mrs. Pace, but was your husband a drinking man?
No, not my Harry. Never cared for it. He loved sweets, though. He'd do anything for a quarter of sweets.
After he followed you to your father's house, you went back to him?
Not that night, no. He was shouting and shouting for me, so my brother opened the window and tried to reason with him. Harry told him to put my head out the window so he could shoot it off. He had a pistol. I thought he could change. He said he was sorry for what had happened. Soon after I went back to him, he started tying me to the bedpost when he went out to look after his sheep. The first time he did it, I thought he'd only be gone a few minutes. Then it started to get dark. He was gone 8 hours.
You were left without food and water?
I was, sir.
And who looked after the children?
This was right at the beginning, before they came along.
Did your husband's manner change? Was he more attentive to you when you were expecting?
Well, the beatings got worse, so I suppose so. 5 of my children were born dead or died very soon after. If I tell you their names, Mr. Burkett, will you write them down?
If you wish me to.
There was Cyril, Hillier, Kathleen, Ursula, and little William. He beat me so badly when I was carrying my babies, it's a wonder any of them survived. And the living children didn't fare no better. Once he poured petrol all over their bedclothes and set them on fire.
Why did he do these things?
He was a very angry man. He'd thrash my Dorothy if she tried to get between us when he was in one of his moods. He'd take a strap to the boys. I never knew where the rages came from. I tried my best to please him.
I'm sure you did.
He hated me to care for anything. My brother Fred gave me a little dog once as a present. A Pomeranian. You know?
Yes.
no bigger than a teacup. He snatched it out of my hands and dashed it against the wall. Sometimes in the evening I'd see him walking home through the fields towards Rose Cottage, and there'd be something in the way he was walking, with his head down and swishing at the grass with his stick. I'd know I was for it when he got home. I'm sorry, Mr. Burkett, Mr. Bowker. I'm very tired now.
Of course. Mr. Burkett?
Thank you, Mrs. Pace.
It doesn't bear thinking about. I'm not one to speak ill of the dead, but he does sound like a piece of work, doesn't he?
You don't think, Edgar, you don't think she sounded a little bit rehearsed? Like something you might read in the world's pictorial news?
Well, she's given statements at the coroner's court, local police, Scotland Yard, magistrates, solicitors. Hardly surprising.
But I assume the newspaper people have been to see her in prison.
Hundreds, I would have thought. Well, you think somebody might have been coaching her?
It happens. Never stands well in the witness box. And nothing she says actually adds up to a defense. The cruelty, the beatings, the little dog will almost certainly be used against her. She's not sure of a motive or two, is she, Edgar? Did you dig up anything on Harry Pace's brother?
Elton Pace. Chap at the solicitors has got all the documents. Elton Pace's small holding is adjacent to Rose Cottage, and there's been argy-bargy about it for ages. He's apparently very keen to get his hands on Harry's bit of land.
Keen enough to kill for it?
Dunno. Keen enough to stop a funeral. Possibly even keen enough to see his sister-in-law hanged. You've got lunch booked with Dupré. The family doctor.
Ah.
Yes, I had occasion to treat Harry Pace several times in the last few years. In fact, Mr. Burkett, that man over there.
Which man?
Looks familiar.
Oh, Lord Chesterton.
G.K. Chesterton? Of course. I've seen his picture.
Has he seen me?
I don't think so.
I'm afraid this trial has turned into a three-ring circus. There are, to my certain knowledge, some 7 celebrated writers in town. 3 of whom are staying here at the King's Arms.
7?
Chesterton spoke to me yesterday evening in what's often described as his characteristically ebullient manner.
Oh.
Is he advancing?
Retreating.
Good. How's your chop?
Excellent. Where was I?
Attending Harry Pace.
Aye, of course. I've attended the whole family on and off for several years.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Pace had 10 confinements in 15 years, poor thing. Not always with happy results, I'm afraid to say.
Yes, and Mr. Pace was not always a trusted helpmate.
Harry Pace. Well, where do you start? He was a Forest of Dean man.
I was wondering if you could fill in some detail on the coroner's report. Tell me, for instance, about Mr. Pace's illness last summer.
Oh, I need to consult my notes.
Of course.
Mrs. Pace brought her husband into my surgery at Coalford at the beginning of May last year. He was complaining of heartburn, flatulence and biliousness, and told me on 3 occasions he'd vomited blood.
So much for the chop.
I'm sorry?
Nothing. Go on.
Well, my initial diagnosis was gastritis. In July, I was called to the house. He'd grown much worse and had developed a worrying loss of power in his hands and feet. It sounded like peripheral neuritis, but then Mrs. Pace told me that they'd been dipping sheep that week, and he'd spent many hours practically immersed in sheep dip. It became apparent that Mr. Pace needed to be admitted to hospital.
And what was the diagnosis from the hospital?
Well, they confirmed my suspicions that his paralytic condition was due to arsenical poisoning.
And you assumed the source of the arsenic to be the sheep dip?
Of course.
But the autopsy report...
The autopsy report raised doubts about the source of the poisoning, but none that I feel couldn't be answered.
And you'd be prepared to say that in the witness box?
Of course.
One other thing. Did Annie Pace... Did she seem to you to be a loyal and supportive wife?
Imprudently so. There was an occasion just before Christmas. Harry had taken a turn for the worse. 4 feet of snow had fallen. And Mrs. Pace came out to me, walking across the fields. She arrived at 8 o'clock in the evening. The journey had taken her 6 hours. There was, of course, nothing I could do. I had other patients. My wife offered to put her up for the night, but she insisted on returning to her husband.
6 hours?
Surely nobody could believe that a woman capable of such devotion could deliberately poison her husband.
Oh,
What is it?
Don't turn round.
What?
Kipling.
He tied her up all day and left her without food or water.
Have you finished with the interrogatories?
Here. He was a monster.
Yes.
He was cruel to the children. He threatened his wife with a razor and with a hatchet.
This is only what Annie Pace has told us, of course.
She had every right to kill him.
So you think she's guilty?
What else could she do?
This isn't coming together as much of a defense, is it?
What else can one believe? Her husband's cruelty was intolerable, but since a life of beatings and oppression does not constitute grounds for divorce, she had no alternative, though it was entirely against her nature, to become a murderess. So, what you have to do is lose the case.
Lose?
Of course. She must be found guilty.
I'm not with you.
She is found guilty, sentence is passed, the public is outraged by the inhuman injustice, the case becomes a cause célèbre.
Like Dreyfus.
And leads inevitably to a reform of your defective divorce laws. So?
Well, first of all, I have to be very clear in my own mind.
About what?
About the difference between politics and law. A barrister is a taxi driver. The client gets in the back, and there are only two places he can go: guilty or not guilty. Your job is to take him to one or the other by the best possible route, and not to question whether it's a fitting or morally appropriate destination. When I was a member of Parliament, I felt like a fish out of water. You know this.
But here is an opportunity to make change.
By losing a case?
Yes.
You are playing devil's advocate.
Why do you say
The
that?
only thing worse than politicians thinking they're policemen and judges is policemen and judges thinking they're politicians. Either way leads to immoderate behaviour. And besides, Annie Pace is found guilty. She becomes a cause célèbre. The divorce laws are changed. Flawless hypothesis, except somewhere along the line there is a very strong chance she'll go to the gallows.
They would not hang her.
They would.
They would not have the stomach for such a thing. The Home Secretary would not...
Johnson Hicks wouldn't have the stomach for a hanging.
Slavery is abolished, but still a woman can be condemned to a lifetime of unimaginable cruelty with no recourse to law and no escape but death. You must lose the case.
All make way for his honour, Mr. Justice Orrit! All make way for the King's Justice!
He'll call Elton Pace.
Right, sir.
Who will swear to heaven, as he did when he interrupted the funeral, that Annie Pace is a black-hearted, two-faced murderess. But his testimony will be so transparently flawed and motives so compromised that he will leave the witness box with every word blown to the winds like thistledown and gossamer. So, no problem there. But what have we got?
Well, we've got a mob of flappers inside and outside the court, primed and ready to become an angry mob if anyone dares lay a finger on poor Annie Pace. We've got the newspapers writing reams of outrage about the villainy of Harry Pace.
Every word of which Merriman will use as regrettable, but nonetheless unquestionable proof of Annie Pace's guilt. Sympathy for Annie Pace, outrage at the way she was treated, all it does is convince everybody that nobody ever had a more powerful or more understandable motive for murder. Billy's sure she's guilty. If a man can't convince his own wife, what chance does he have of the jury?
Mind you, Mrs. Burkett is...
What?
Well...
Oh, well, yes, she is remarkably Swedish. Do you have the coroner's report?
Well, there's the snow story. The trudging through the snow, the one the doctor told you.
How does that work as a defence?
A 6-hour trudge through the snow proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Annie Pace is a saint. Devoted, patient, never contemplate harm coming to her man.
Merriman's putting up the boy, though. The son, what's his name?
Leslie Pace.
Yes, well, a 9-year-old boy who will tear out the jury's heart with tales of his father's cruelty to him and his brothers and sisters.
Exactly, sir.
And never forget that that same saintly woman who trudged through the snow to help her husband will also be the perfect mother, harbouring an even more pressing protective instinct towards her children, prepared to kill in their defence against a bully. Have you ever seen a mother hen protect her chicks against the cockerel?
No, sir.
No, neither have I. I bet Merriman has, though. I had a professor once who over sherry said that despite all the jurisprudence malarkey and the incumbit probatio qui dicit, a criminal trial is no more than a game of who can spin the best yarn. Merriman can give us a Greek tragedy. The tale of poor Annie Pace who falls victim to the dark lord of the forest, an elemental so powerful she is forced by bitter necessity to murder him. Elios, Kai Phobos, the pity and the terror. And the only possible ending to such a story is propitiation, the debt of blood paid in blood, the innocent sacrificed.
And you really believe all that?
No, of course I do. But it had you spellbound, didn't it? And that's the point. Merriman's got a Greek tragedy. What have we got?
Sheep dip?
Sheep dip?
Silence! Beatrice Annie Pace, you are charged with the willful murder of Harry Pace on January the 10th in the present year, and you stand charged with the offence on the coroner's inquisition. How say you? Do you plead guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty, sir.
Speak up.
Not guilty, sir.
Keep your chin up, girl.
Silence.
Mr. Pace, I understand that it was your approach to the local constabulary that halted your brother's burial and opened the inquest into his death.
I just wanted to do right by my brother.
As we all do, I assure you. Now, am I right in inferring from your earlier evidence that you were on friendly terms with the deceased?
Yes, sir.
And with his wife?
For the most part.
And yet, isn't it true that 4 years ago, Mrs. Pace forbade you to enter their house?
She had no right to do that, though, did she?
She had no right
That
to...
house was my granddad's. It's family house. And the land? That's Pace land. I got as much right to be there as she has. More right.
How would you describe Mrs. Pace's marriage to her husband?
She told me she wanted to get rid of the mingy old bastard.
And did you mention to anyone else that she'd made this threat?
No.
Did you mention it to your brother? Did you tell him what she had called him?
Certainly not. He'd have gone down my neck, he would that.
If Mrs. Pace was so keen to be rid of her husband, how do you account for her efforts to get him attended by doctors?
No fear.
You mean to convey to my lord and the jury that you do not believe she did so?
No, I don't.
And what if Dr. Dupre comes into that box and swears it? Would you believe it then?
No, I should not. I got my own opinion about him.
Why do you think that Mrs. Pace entertained these ideas of killing her husband?
She said he was never out for pleasure. He was always scrapping with his sheep.
Scrapping?
Yeah, spending time with his sheep.
You mentioned that the house and the land it stands on belong to your grandfather.
That's got nothing to do with it.
You described it as Pace land.
It is Pace land. Annie come up from some Breovals. Oh, she's not even coalford.
Now, young man, I don't want you to be frightened. Just speak up clearly so everyone can hear you in court.
Yes, sir.
Hmm?
Yes, sir.
That's very good. Now, do you understand what the truth is and what it is to tell lies?
Yes, sir.
Do you know who God is?
He is our Father who art in heaven.
Now, Leslie, can you tell us about the last time your father dipped some of his sheep? Were you there?
I was. And Teddy was too. It was the end of the summer before he went into the hospital. Daddy dipped them in a tub.
Tell me, how did he mix up the sheep dip?
He got the powder out of the kitchen to put into the water. The powder was in a packet.
And did he use it all?
No, not all of it. Daddy took what was left and screwed it up into a piece of newspaper and put it in his box downstairs. And Daddy put the dip in a bucket and mixed it up and he poured it in the dolly tub. And then he put the sheep into the tub and he pushed them down into the water with his hands.
So your father got a lot of the liquid on himself during the course of this operation?
Yes. He was fairly well wetted by the time he'd finished the lambs.
Thank you. Leslie, you have been very helpful.
A long time ago, Daddy said he was going to shoot us all with his gun. I'm only 9. I couldn't have stopped him. I'm only 9.
You're a very brave boy. Thank you, Leslie. You can stand down.
Silence. We'll adjourn to luncheon, I think. All rise.
We could have done without the shoot us all with his gun outburst.
Yes.
The mother hen will protect her chickens. But the sheep dip seems to be doing us very well.
Seems so, sir. Wilcox is here.
Wilcox?
The Home Office forensic thingy.
Poisons expert. William Wilcox. I thought he wasn't available.
He'll come down from Scotland, special.
We're putting in a local doctor. They've got Wilcox. Bit worrying.
I agree with the findings of the coroner's court that the deceased died of arsenical poisoning. The minimum effective dose is 2 grains. The intestines contained 4 grains, and the liver also had a considerable presence of arsenic, 3 grains.
And this, in your learned opinion, would be entirely consistent with a prolonged contact with sheep dip?
In most cases it would, yes. It would not, however, be consistent with poisoning by the ingestion of the type sold as Battle's sheep dip, which was the preparation used by Mr. Pace.
But surely arsenic is present in that preparation?
Yes, certainly. But so is sulphur. Sulphur makes up 65% of Battle's sheep dip. No sulphur was present in the deceased's body.
But the arsenic found in the deceased's body, it was consistent with a slow build-up of poison.
A slow build-up could not have been the cause of death. At least 1 dose of pure arsenic, with no sulphur content, must have been administered within 48 hours prior to death.
Anything?
Dr. Dupre says there's a very strong possibility that the only reason no sulphur is recorded as being in the body is because they never thought to test for it when they were doing the autopsy. So if we were to get an exhumation order...
Anything else?
But there's no actual proof she administered the poison.
The poison, pure arsenic, not sheep dip, was administered in the last 48 hours of his life. Do you have another suspect? We have no case.
So we change the plea to guilty. With the weight of mitigating circumstances, she'll get off with, I don't know, but Horridge won't hang her. She won't hang.
At Leicester Assizes during the war, there was a factory girl, an unmarried mother. She'd suffocated her baby just a few minutes after it was born by tying a camisole around its mouth. I was prosecuting. And the doctor who'd attended her said it was perfectly possible that the pain she'd suffered had affected the girl's mind. She wouldn't have known what she was doing, either clumsy or possibly some sort of sleepwalking. Nevertheless, the jury found her guilty, and the judge, Pickford, you remember Pickford? He put on the black cap. They had to carry the poor woman out of the dock, screaming, not protesting her innocence. "I'm very sorry." That's what she said, looking at me, as if somehow her very existence caused me great offence, as if it was in her power to claim my forgiveness, as if it was in my power to grant that forgiveness.
I've seen him getting sentenced, and I've seen him getting hanged, and the sentence is always worse. The shock. In the war, sometimes, if they caught a deserter, they do without a trial. Just leave him alone for a bit with a loaded pistol.
The mother's up next.
Elizabeth Porter, Harry Pace's mother. If you remember, she remarried after her first husband died.
Yes, there was an envelope. An envelope with the documents from Somerset House, wasn't there?
Oh, right. Well, here it is. Listen.
Edgar, Annie Pace is not the only person who could have administered that poison in the last 48 hours of Harry's life.
You think his brother...
We stand fast in the faith, Edgar. She won't hang. She mustn't hang. And when was the last time you saw your son, Mrs. Porter?
I saw him before Christmas.
And how was he?
He was in a terrible bad way. He was doubled up by the pains in his belly. It was heartrending to see him.
Who was there in the house to help Mrs. Pace with the nursing?
There was Doris.
Well, Doris was 11 years old. Did Mrs. Pace nurse your son devotedly?
I couldn't say.
Is it a fact that you never rendered one moment's assistance in nursing your son?
She never asked.
But you knew that she had just had a baby and that baby was sick. That's enough for one woman to cope with, isn't it?
I just want justice for my son.
Was your son rather gloomy at times?
Well, I never knew it.
Did he believe that medicine would do him no good?
When he was ill, he said medicine made him feel worse.
Would you say he was a man of strange behaviour at times?
He was a hard-working man.
Is that strange behaviour?
He didn't deserve what he got.
I regret that I have to put this question to you, but you had another son.
Yes, there's Harry and Elton.
An illegitimate son.
I might have.
Oh, please, now spare me having to go through all the details. I have his birth certificate here. That son, Sidney Reginald Pritchard Pace, was born on February the 11th, 1908. Is that correct?
I thought I was here about my Harry's murder.
I must ask you, this other son, is he living?
I don't know. I came here...
So you did not know that he committed suicide by shooting himself whilst of unsound mind?
I don't know anything about the matter whatsoever.
So you never knew there was an inquest upon his dead body on March the 22nd, 1927, a little more than a year ago?
No.
Do you really swear to that?
I do.
So you did not know he committed suicide?
Mr. Burkitt, I think we can accept that the witness says she had no knowledge of her son's suicide.
Thank you, my lord. I have no further questions. Now, Mrs. Pace, we have heard from the deceased's mother and his brother something of your husband's character. Could I ask you, in your own words, what kind of man he was?
I don't know. He was my husband.
His mother said he was a hard-working man. Would you agree with that?
Yes. He loved his sheep. It upset him terribly if anything happened to any of them. Once, when one of the ewes wandered onto the railway lines and got killed, he got so angry, he came home and killed my little dog.
So we can conclude from that that he didn't love all animals.
No. He could be cruel. Childish. Once he took it into his head to see how chickens would walk on one leg. So he went outside to the yard and broke one leg of each of a number of our birds to find out how they would get along. I had to wring their necks to put them out of their pain. If one of my children had tried a trick like that, I would have slapped him and sent him to bed. Sometimes he would bite the sheepdog's ears if he didn't obey him first time, and then he'd bark at them.
Your husband would bark at his dog?
It was one of his ways. Another time, he made me buy him a mouth organ in Coalford.
Was he a musical man?
No, not at all.
Mrs. Pace, I know this is painful to you, but can I ask you to relate the events of Christmas Day, some 2 weeks before your husband's death?
Harry had been feeling sorry for himself all day. Christmas had that effect on him. I made him a glass of cornflour and milk to ease his stomach, but he threw it on the fire. I said maybe he'd be better off upstairs in bed, and he caught hold of the fire tongs and would have taken a swing at me, but my Dorothy got in between us. So he threw the tongs down and broke the fender. Then he went and got his razor and said he was going to cut all our throats. I sent Doris out to fetch a neighbour to help me calm him down.
He was very agitated.
He always got down in the mouth, Christmas time.
So your husband's spirits were very low. Did you ever suspect that he might take his own life?
Mr. Burkitt, do I have to remind you not to lead the witness?
Point taken, my lad. No further questions.
It's still in the game.
We have to build a completely new defence on practically nothing.
They'll buy the suicide, sir. They want to buy it. And in the end, sir, it's what you said. Who can spin the best yarn, you or Merriman? And Merriman is looking very tired.
Even tired, he's formidable. Did you read his summing up for the Waterson case? Extraordinary eloquence. Stand the doctor down. No more sheep dip. But see if you can get hold of a nerve specialist. There must be some sort of local asylum.
Note for Mr. Burke. Thanks.
What's that?
Note from Merriman. He says he's spoken to Mr. Justice Horridge, and if Mr. Burkitt wishes to pursue a no-case-to-answer submission, Mr. Justice Horridge has assented to direct the jury to bring in a not-guilty verdict.
Of course there's a case to answer. Merriman's established a very solid case. Why would he throw in the towel?
Because he knows he can't win.
Of course he can win. Besides, this is Merriman, the Solicitor General. I've seen the defence bring... He's been nobbled.
What?
He's been nobbled.
Well, who would want to...
At the election next year, young women under 30 vote for the first time. There are 1,000 flappers outside this courtroom. Baldwin's in a bad enough state as it is. If he goes polling for the flapper vote as the man who sent poor Annie Pace to the gallows, he's had it. Much better. Sweep the whole thing under the carpet. Quiet word with his Solicitor General Merriman, Bob's your uncle. Nobbled.
By the Prime Minister?
Exactly.
Pity.
What?
I could see a summing up brewing.
There was a summing up brewing, yes.
Never hear it now.
No.
Could have made legal history. Best untold tale a courtroom never heard.
Huh. Nevertheless, Annie Pace goes free.
It's a fudge, though, isn't it? Not right. She wanted her name to be properly cleared. She wanted justice, and all she gets is politics.
Nobbled.
A Talk to Wives by Mrs. Pace.
This is the Express?
Yes.
I hope they paid her a very large fortune.
Why I could not run away. You've got to fight for what you've got to keep it and to make it better.
Ah.
I keep asking myself one question as I write this story, and I ask it because writing the story brings it into my mind. Why did I stay with Harry? I answer myself, because I loved him. So, her advice to women in her position, women who are beaten like dogs, humiliated, is stick with it. In the name of love.
Yes.
If Anna Pace had been found guilty, the divorce...
Divorce law reform may have been raised a couple of notches on the political agenda.
How can you ever say this is law and this is politics? There is only politics.
Criminal justice is a very blunt instrument, Billy. It's designed exclusively to establish guilt or innocence.
It's like a doctor managing an epidemic bacteria by bacteria without having the curiosity to raise his eyes from the microscope and see the infected well.
You think I should go back into politics, then?
Of course.
Trouble is, 3 years ago, the electorate disagreed with you quite vehemently.
The Express says that you are the saviour of Annie Pace.
It was a no case to answer, a walkover.
Your old seat in Nottingham, how many young women work there in the lace factories? 2,000? 10,000? Most of them are between the ages of 21 and 30. All of them would have followed Annie's trial and would consider it a privilege to put an X next to the name of Norman Burkett.
You're right, of course. I'll write a couple of letters in the morning.
Linnea was very pleased with the post office set.
Oh, good. Edgar wasn't sure if she was old enough.
She drafts telegrams to the king and has stamped postage due on her white frock.
Nice to know some good came of our little trip to Gloucester, then.
In Norman Burkett and the Case of the Coalford Poisoner, by Caroline and David Stafford, Norman Burkett was played by David Haig and Edgar Bowker by Tristan Gravel. Billy was Alison Pettit, Annie Pace, Claire Corbett, Elton Pace, Michael Shelford, Dr. Dupre and William Wilcox, Sam Dale, Mrs. Elizabeth Porter, Joanna Munro, and Judge Horridge was Bruce Alexander. The court clerk was Nigel Hastings, and the driver was John Biggins. The play was directed by Mark Beebe.
We present Mary Ney and Barbara Cooper in The Weather for Murder by Philip Levine.
Oh, Miss Pierce. Just coming, Mr. Rayton. Won't be a moment. Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Rayton. Something else you'd like? Just my bill, please. Time I was back in the shop. Busy, are you? I've a pile of prescriptions that high. In July? Wouldn't have thought you'd be overworked this time of year. Warm weather brings its quota of complaints, too. You'd be surprised. Let's see, it was a coffee and, a toasted bun. Yes. I promised myself I'd lay off the starch, but whenever I come in here, my resolutions fly out of the window. Still, this little place is like an oasis in the desert. I don't know what we'd do without you in Froxley. That'll be tenpence. Cheap at half the price. See you at tea. Yes, thank you, Mr. Rayton.
I say, miss, what's happened to my order?
I didn't take it, did I?
No, it's the other lady, the short, thin one.
Oh, dear.
Waiting about 10 minutes now.
Oh, coffee, was it?
No, a pot of tea and a round of toast.
Oh, I expect it's on its way. I'll go and hurry it up. Millie, have you seen my sister?
Wasn't she in the shop, Miss Sarah?
Well, if she was, I'd hardly come out of the kitchen, would I?
Oh, here. Isn't there a typing machine upstairs?
Very probably. Now, I want a pot of tea and a round of toast, and be quick about it.
Right, Mum.
Elsie! 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 Oh, Elsie.
Oh, did you call, Sarah?
Did I call? I've been shouting myself silly for the past 2 minutes.
Really? I was concentrating.
What on earth are you doing?
I had a sudden inspiration. The most brilliant idea.
Oh, surely it would have kept till later. You know we're rushed off our feet between 10 and 11. It's bad enough for the two of us. I can hardly cope on my own.
But this is the most ingenious idea, Sarah. A whodunit, and it's set in one of those laundrettes. You know, where people take their laundry.
Well, I'm afraid I can't stop and chatter now.
Yes, but Sarah...
Later, dear, later. Now leave that and come along down.
Oh, good morning, Sergeant Foster.
Oh, hello, Miss Elsie.
Very pleasant out this morning, isn't it?
Ah, not that it make much difference to me. Stuck away in a miserable office. Wish I was back on the beat sometimes.
Oh, but it's much more fun investigating, isn't it?
The only investigating I done this week is to check on 1 dented mudguard and 2 lost cats.
Oh, you know, I was hoping you'd drop in this morning. There
Was you?
was something I wanted to ask you.
Ah, picking my brains again, eh? What are you scribbling this time?
Scribbling? I'm busily writing, if that's what you mean.
Another thriller?
I suppose you'd call it that.
I'd have thought romantic novels would have been more in your line.
Oh, I don't know. Some of our most successful thriller writers are women. Agatha Christie, Dorothy Sayers...
Is that how you see yourself, eh? Another Agatha Christie?
Oh, it's a trifle ambitious, I agree. But even she had to start somewhere.
All right. What is it this time?
Well, I've set my story in a laundrette, and I wondered, would heat destroy a fingerprint?
Direct heat, certainly.
Oh.
Now, mild heat might preserve it. But if there's any moisture about, or steam or anything like that, they disappear.
Oh, would they?
Afraid so.
Oh, what a pity. That's ruined everything. I shan't be able to use that after all.
Oh, sorry about that. But you know what I could use right now? A nice, strong cup of tea. Think you might oblige?
Oh, certainly, Sergeant. I'll bring it directly.
Oh, Millie, is the roast in the oven?
Yes, ma'am.
It's cream of celery today. You haven't forgotten?
Oh, no, Miss Sarah. Cream of celery, roaster curry, date pudding and cheese to follow.
That's right. Oh, how are we off for curry powder?
Enough for today, but you'll need to order some more.
Are you off shopping, Sarah?
Just going. But I'll be back for the first of the lunches. Oh, have you typed up the menus?
Yes, I've got them here.
Fine. Put them round the tables. It reminds me, I must see if Mallards have got that sample in yet.
What sample is that?
The plastic tablecloth.
Oh, surely not, Sarah.
And what's the objection?
I simply loathe plastic.
Oh, well, that's no argument. They're highly practical.
I dare say, but must everything be practical? Oh, Sarah, customers prefer good old-fashioned cloths, linen. They're more homely.
That may be, but very impractical. Do you know what our laundry bill is each week? It runs into pounds.
Well, then, let's put up our prices.
Oh, they're quite high enough already. Elsie, you may not realize it, but we barely make ends meet.
Well, why don't we put in a few more tables?
Oh, my dear, if we put in another table or chair, there wouldn't be room to move.
But didn't you say something about enlarging the place?
Yes, I intend to, if I can acquire that small plot next door.
Oh, yes. The one that belongs to Mr. Everett.
Mm-hmm.
Have you spoken to him yet?
No, but I shall at the first opportunity.
He usually comes in about 11, though he hasn't been in this morning.
Well, if he does, for heaven's sake, don't you say anything. It needs a tactful approach.
Yeah.
And let's face it, you've no head for business. So I think you'll agree it's best left to me.
Oh, yes, indeed, Sarah. I'd be quite hopeless.
Good. Well, you set out those menus. You've put on the correct date, haven't you?
Yes, the 16th of July.
Fine. Then when you've done that, I should have your coffee. Oh, don't leave the shop, will you?
Oh, no, Sarah.
I'll see you shortly.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Sarah. Good morning, Mrs. Clark.
Good morning, Miss Elsie. Oh, I forgot the doughnuts when I was in earlier. They haven't all gone, have they?
Oh, no, there's half a dozen left.
Well, I take them then. Oh, my, it's been such a morning in the post office. I ran out of 7-8 insurance stamps.
Good morning, Elsie.
Oh, hello, Mr. Everett. If you'll find yourself a table, I shan't keep you long.
Thank you. There's no hurry.
That'll be 1 and 6, Mrs. Clark.
That's it, then. Well, thank you so much. Morning, Miss Everett.
Good morning, Mrs. Clark.
The usual, Mr. Everett.
Please. Oh, I seem to have missed the rush.
Yes, we were frightfully busy earlier on. I was just about to have my coffee, too.
Oh, well, join me if you like.
Oh, may I? Anything with your coffee?
Just a plain bun, I think.
Right. I shan't be a jiffy. Yours is half and half, if I remember rightly.
Yes. No milk for you?
No, I prefer mine black. They say black coffee keeps the mind alert and clear. And that's very essential if one's doing creative work, don't you think?
Oh, very. How's the writing coming along?
Oh, not too badly. But it's so difficult finding new ideas. Oh, excuse me, just a moment. There's the postman.
It's for you, Miss Pierce.
Oh, is it?
One parcel, but no need to sign.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Oh, dear.
Another rejection? Well, never mind. There are a great many other publishers.
No, I'm afraid there aren't. I've exhausted them all. Oh, well, into the wastepaper basket, I suppose.
Tell me, what was it about?
Oh, I'd hate to bore
But
you.
you'll never bore me, Elsie. On the contrary. Now then, come along.
Oh, well, it was about a private detective in Soho.
Do you know any private detectives?
No, I don't.
Have you ever been to Soho?
No, but I've seen pictures and read books.
Ah, but that's the trouble, you see. Surely it's best to write from your own experience.
Possibly. But I could hardly write about Froxteen, could I?
Oh, why not? You know Froxteen.
Oh, it's so dull and boring, and this tea shop wouldn't make a very exciting background for a thriller.
No, I wouldn't say that. At least you'd know the people. A murder isn't limited to any particular background or class. I bet there isn't a person anywhere who hasn't thought of murdering someone at some time.
Oh, not you, surely, Mr. Everett.
Oh, you'd be surprised. And whilst I remember, I wish you'd call me Victor.
Oh, well, as long as Mrs. Everett won't object.
Oh, why should she? Now, if you'll take my advice, Elsie, you'll start your next novel nearer home.
I'll try. I must say I'm getting a little tired of rejection slips. Oh, I meant to ask you before, what happened to your dog?
My dog?
Yes, Dandy, wasn't that his name? Such a lovely Labrador with the best coat I've ever seen.
I'm afraid I had to get rid of him.
Oh, not destroy.
No, I had to find him a new home.
Oh, however could you part with
But it wasn't through choice. Nora, Mrs. Everett, felt there wasn't room for him in the cottage.
Oh.
We've one or two fine pieces and, well, he was rather a large dog.
Oh, what a pity.
Yes, well, one has to give and take in marriage.
I suppose so. And anyway, you've still got your dahlias.
Well, no, I haven't actually.
Oh, haven't you? But I thought you had a wonderful collection.
I did, but Nora doesn't care for dahlias. She says they attract blackfly, so we've switched to a herbaceous border.
Oh, how sad.
No, not really. I must say those blackfly were a bit of a nuisance.
But in spite of them, I heard that one year you took almost every prize at the county show.
Oh, that's quite right, I did. Before you and your sister came here, before I remarried, several summers ago. Odd, when I think back now. Just Dandy and I. My dahlias, blackfly and all.
Your wife's from London, isn't she?
Yes, though we first met on a cruise. It's funny how that happened. My first holiday in years. She was a science teacher, you know. You wouldn't think it to look at her, but she's terribly bright. Good brain. Used to teach in the secondary modern. Well, we seemed to get thrown together on the cruise. And we were never out of each other's company.
Oh.
And when I got back, I found I missed her. I wrote, and then out of the blue, she turned up here. And, well, that was that. Not terribly romantic, is it? Won't give you much copy, I'm afraid.
Well, didn't your wife find it very quiet here in Froxteen?
Well, at first, Nora was all for moving back to town. Then suddenly she changed her mind. I think it was the cottage.
And I'm not surprised at that. It's adorable. Though I only know it from the outside, and I love that beautiful bay window.
Yes, that's the lounge.
Oh, is it? It looks rather like an inn with that, what do you call it, bubble glass?
Bullion glass. Yes, genuine, too. Not this mass-produced stuff. Yes. It's a bit warm in the summer, but I must say I find it delightful. The only thing is, one has to be careful with the furniture or the sun can blister the varnish.
I can't imagine a lovelier cottage for retirement, Mr. Everett.
Victor.
Oh, yes.
I'm not completely retired, you know. Not by a long chalk. I'm still on the boards of several companies.
Are you?
Yes, Harmsworth. Mutual Investments, not forgetting McCowan's.
What, the big London store?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I'll be driving up to a board meeting tomorrow. You wouldn't be going up to town, would you?
Me?
Well, I thought perhaps I could give you a lift and we might have a bite of lunch together.
Oh, thank you. Oh, but I rarely go up to town.
Oh, well, some other time.
Yes.
Oh, here's your sister. Well, time I was off. I'll take my bill, if I may.
Good morning, Mr. Everett.
Hello.
I'm glad I've caught you. I wondered if I might have a word with you.
Certainly.
Here, Elsie, give these groceries to Millie, would you?
Oh, yes, Sarah, yes.
Well, now, Mr. Everett, I hope I'm not holding you up.
No, of course not. What can I do for you?
To come straight to the point, it's about that small vacant plot next door. I understand from my solicitors that it belongs to you.
Yes, I bought it some years ago. It was part of the old Lingfield estate.
Well, my sister and I were thinking of enlarging the shop. We're rather cramped here, as you can see.
Well, if you're thinking of making an offer, don't make it to me.
I'm sorry.
I made over a few properties to my wife at the time of our marriage, and I have a feeling that's among them.
Oh, I see.
Well, there's no harm in your having a word with her. I'll tell you what, I'll mention it to her when I get back and ask her to telephone you.
Would you? I'd be most grateful.
But knowing my wife, I better warn you. She'll drive a hard bargain.
Oh, Millie?
Yes, Miss Sarah?
Are the new gatto iced?
Yes, I'm just going to put the walnuts on.
Oh, answer that, Elsie, would you?
Oh, yes, Sarah.
Millie, you did check that delivery yesterday?
Twice.
Well, then where's the curry powder?
In the cupboard.
Oh, I've told you a dozen times, Millie, spices go on the shelf by the stove.
Oh.
Elsie, that wasn't Mrs. Everett by any chance?
No, Sarah. It was Mrs. Clark from the post office. She asked me to put aside a jam sponge.
Oh, I should think Mr. Everett forgot to speak to her.
Oh, Sarah, if he promised, then I'm sure he will. He's a frightfully nice man. Such perfect manners.
But easily led. Fancy handing property to his wife just like that.
No, that shows how considerate he is. I admire him for it. I think Mrs. Everett's a very fortunate woman.
We are not the only one. From what I hear, there were quite a few broken hearts in Froxteen when the banns went up. Isn't that right, Millie?
Oh, yes, ma'am. There were dozens who had their eye on him. Well, a cottage and a car and pots of money. Oh, I wouldn't have said no to him myself. Still, he hasn't done bad for himself, has he? I mean, she's very smart and not at all bad looking. Got pots herself, I expect.
Oh, a shop, Elsie.
Oh, right, Sarah.
Oh, that smells like the scones.
Oh, ma'am.
Yeah, Millie, take the cloth or you'll burn your fingers.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good morning, Mrs. Everett.
Good morning. I'll take a wholemeal loaf and a small gatto.
Certainly.
Is that all you've got? Chocolate? The one I had the other day was rather sickly. Haven't you anything else?
Oh, we've a new line. Walnut cream. I'm sure you'd like that.
May I see one?
Oh, Millie's just topping them with walnuts.
Well, I've got a lot to do this morning. How long will they be?
Oh, 5 minutes, no more.
Oh, well, if I've got to hang about, I'll stop for a coffee.
Oh, yes, do. I shan't keep you waiting long. Sarah, Mrs. Everett's just come in. She's staying for coffee.
Really?
Yes, but would you believe it, Sarah? She said our chocolate gatto was sickly.
Oh, what nonsense. We've never had any complaints before.
I know. I almost gave her a piece of my mind.
I hope you didn't.
Oh, no, of course not. I persuaded her to try one of the walnut creams. Are the walnut creams ready yet, Millie?
Almost. I'll be through in a jiffy.
Well, then, I'd better take in her coffee
No,
meantime.
No. I'll serve her. It'll be a good opportunity to talk to her about next door.
Oh, yes, Sarah.
Black or white, Mrs. Everett?
Just a dash. That's fine.
Oh, there's no sugar bowl. Just a moment.
Don't bother. I take saccharin.
Of course. I should have remembered by now. Anything else for you?
No, not just now. Though I'm glad you brought the coffee in, Miss Pierce. It saves me telephoning. My husband mentioned you'd been inquiring about the plot next door.
Oh, yes. As he may have told you, we're anxious to enlarge our premises.
Business is flourishing, is it?
Not exactly, but, well, as you can see, we're rather limited for space. In our busy times, it becomes rather chaotic.
I see. Well, what sort of figure had you in mind?
I'm not very sure. Judging from what we gave for these premises, I suppose the land must be worth about 300.
300? Oh, Miss Pierce, you're way behind the times.
Oh?
In the past year, prices have simply soared.
Have they?
Well, don't you read your newspapers? Building land's at a premium. Yours isn't the first inquiry I've had. Oh, no, I'm afraid I couldn't let that plot go under 1,200.
1,200? But that's exorbitant.
Well, I don't think there's much point in our discussing the matter further, do you? So if my gatto's ready, I'll settle the bill, and then I must fly. I've a very busy day ahead of me.
Oh, the heat. Elsie, if you're on your way to the kitchen, put on the other fan, will you? It's terribly close.
I intended to, Sarah. Oh, put on the other fan, Millie.
All right, ma'am.
And 2 pots of tea, 1 china, and an egg on toast.
Toast, yeah. Oh, wasn't it turned warm? I'm sweltering.
Well, we've got both fans on now. I should open the window fully.
Must be the hottest day we've had this summer.
Have you got that ham sandwich for Sergeant Foster?
Yes, here it is. With mustard. Oh, and that round of cinnamon toast.
Oh, thank you, Millie. Your sandwich with mustard, Sergeant.
Ah, thanks, Miss Elsie.
I expect that uniform's a trifle warm this weather.
Oh, you can say that again. Still, I suppose I should be thankful I ain't on traffic duty. I wouldn't fancy that with the thermometer touching 80.
Is it as high as that?
Yes, a sudden high ridge sweeping in from the Azores.
Oh, is that what it is?
That your telephone?
Yes.
Answer that, would you, Millie?
Yes, ma'am.
It's all right. Millie's taken it.
Oh, you know what you can do with an issue of Tropical Kit.
Oh, I'm sure you'll feel refreshed once you've had your tea. Sergeant, I meant to tell you, I've given up writing stories about private detectives. I'm going to concentrate on something nearer home, from my own experience.
Well, that should be interesting.
Sergeant,
Sergeant Foster!
Yes, what is it, Millie?
The phone just now.
No, just take it easy and catch your breath.
But that was your constable. He's had an urgent call. The Everett's cottage is on fire.
What?
Oh, no.
He sent for the brigade, but there's a terrible blaze.
Quick, let's have me helmet.
I'm afraid there's little we can do, Sergeant. It's like a raging furnace in there. Just burn itself out.
Are you sure there's no one inside?
Well, my men couldn't get within 10 yards of the place. We can only pray and hope.
How do you think it started?
Your guess is as good as mine. That old timber construction's a menace. Once it's alight, there's no holding it.
Some blaze.
We're lucky it's isolated. At least there's no damage to surrounding property.
You'll have to watch that garden shed.
Oh, not to worry. My men have got their eye on that. Oh, I see we got ourselves an audience.
Yes, half the village turned out with looking at it.
I wish they'd keep their distance. They're getting a bit close to that fence.
You leave them to me, I'll handle them. All right now, folks. Now, keep well back to that fence. Come along back now, please. Come along back now.
Sergeant, what a pity about that lovely cottage.
Why, Miss Elsie, what are you doing down here?
I never could resist a fire.
Well, I must say, you won't see another one like this in a hurry. That roof will be in any minute.
Is Mrs. Everett safe?
We're keeping our fingers crossed.
She was in the shop this morning.
Was she? What about her husband?
He's gone up to London for a board meeting. He mentioned something yesterday.
Where was this meeting, did he say?
Yes, he's the director of McCowan's.
Oh, that's helpful. I'll try and get him on the blower right away. Now, do keep away from that fence, please!
And so, finally, gentlemen, I have no hesitation in saying that we can look forward to a highly profitable and satisfactory year.
Oh, Mr. Everett,
Yes, Miss Brown?
there's a telephone call for you.
Well, I can't be disturbed now.
It's the police sergeant from Proxtein. He says it's extremely urgent.
Oh? All right. I'll take it. Where is it?
Next door in the outer office.
Would you excuse me a moment, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Yes, of course, Everett.
Hello? Oh, I shan't give you a moment, Sergeant. He's just coming. Oh, here you are, sir.
Thank you. Hello? Yes, speaking. Please come to the point. I'm in the middle of a board meeting. What? When did this happen? I see. But is my wife all right? Well, if she returns before I get there, tell her I'm on my way back. Yes. Yes, I should be there by 6. It was good of you to call, Sergeant. Thank you. Miss Brown,
Yes, sir?
get me a brandy, would you?
Certainly, sir. The usual with soda.
No, make it a double. And neat.
Honestly, Elsie, I don't understand people at all. They only have to hear the word fire and they start behaving like a bunch of schoolchildren.
It's just natural curiosity.
Well, I can't see anything natural about it. It's morbid, if you ask me. I've never seen such a stampede. You, Millie? But the place emptied itself so quickly, you'd have thought the tea shop was on fire.
Well, you should have come too, Sarah. It was still burning when I left. Oh, poor Mr. Everett. He will be upset.
Well, I hope he had the good sense to be insured.
But that'll hardly compensate for the loss of such a charming cottage. And all the inconvenience, Sarah. I mean, where will the Everetts live?
Well, they'll have to find a hotel.
And to think of all their beautiful antique furniture.
It'll be replaced if it's insured.
Oh, but it's not the same.
Be practical. One chair's the same as another.
But they've lost everything. Except the garden shed.
It's about time Millie was back. I'll have something to say to her, gallivanting off without so much as a by your leave.
Oh, if she is now.
And about time.
Sorry, Ma'am, but the most terrible things happened.
Oh?
The fireman found a body in the cottage.
Oh, no. Dear.
It's Mrs. Everett, there's no doubt. Oh, to think she was only in here this morning.
Now, use your handkerchief, Millie, for goodness sake. Are they certain it was Mrs. Everett?
Yes, I heard the fireman say.
Oh, how dreadful.
Oh, it was terrible, Ma'am. They had a police car there, and she was all covered in a sheet.
Oh, dear.
Oh.
All right,
was
Millie.
shocking, Ma'am.
Now, just pull yourself together. Get the tea things washed up, and then you can go off.
Right, Ma'am.
Oh, poor Mr. Everett.
Oh, yes. Poor man. But people get over these things like everything else.
Still, we could offer to help.
Help? In what way?
Well, Sarah, it's an awful thought that the poor man will have to stay alone in some ghastly hotel room. Couldn't we offer to put him up for a day or two?
Well, I suppose we could.
Oh, we've a spare room, Sarah, and he wouldn't be much bother. He could eat down here. Oh, surely it's the least we could do.
I'm sorry to have brought you down here, sir, but it wasn't necessary for identification purposes.
I understand, Sergeant.
Oh, there's a deed box in my office. I'm afraid that's all that was salvaged.
Thank you. Well, I suppose I'd better look round for a room of some sort.
No need to worry, sir. Miss Pierce and the tea room said they'd be happy to put you up.
Really? I don't know whether I could bother them.
Oh, they'd be only too pleased. They'll be much more comfortable there in the hotel. And we shall need you for the inquest.
Now, Doctor, you examined the remains of the deceased?
Yes.
Would you state your opinion as to the cause of death?
Shock, following multiple burns to the chest and abdomen. I should perhaps add it was not possible to conduct a normal post-mortem beyond a routine examination of the throat and lungs.
Due to the extensive burns?
Yes, though after reading the fire officer's report and noting the position in which the deceased was found, I'm of the opinion that Mrs. Everett was asleep in a chair when the flames enveloped her.
Thank you, Doctor. Go on, Victor Everett.
Victor Everett.
I swear by Almighty God to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Do take a seat, Mr. Everett.
Thank you.
You are Victor Everett, formerly of Hillside Cottage, Meadows Lane, Froxteen.
Yes.
On what occasion did you last see your wife?
On the morning of the 17th of July, at about 10:30. I was due at a board meeting in London that afternoon, but I thought I'd go up a little earlier. My wife had some shopping to do, and we left the house together, as I say, around 10:30.
And later that day at approximately 6:15 p.m., you identified the body of a woman at the Froxteen police station as that of your wife?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Everett, although we shall be calling an expert witness in a few moments, have you any comments to make at this stage as to the cause of the fire?
No, I'm afraid I haven't. We didn't have gas in the house. My wife preferred electricity. And the entire cottage was rewired by the board about 18 months ago, shortly after my wife and I were married.
Was your wife in the habit of smoking?
No.
Were there any inflammable materials stored in the house?
None at all, as far as I know. I've a bottle of thinners and some methylated spirits, but they're kept in the garden shed, well away from the house.
So you can offer no explanation as to the cause of the fire?
I'm afraid I can't.
Well, thank you, Mr. Everett. You may step down. Call Mr. R.A. Jenkins, County Fire Officer.
Mr. R.A. Jenkins, County Fire Officer.
I swear by Almighty God to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
You are Ronald Arthur Jenkins, Fire Officer of this county?
Yes, sir.
And on the afternoon of the 17th of July, you examined the debris and what remained of the residence known as Hillside Cottage, Meadows Lane, Froxteen.
I did.
And did you reach any conclusion concerning the origin of this fire?
I did, sir.
Will you state these conclusions to the court?
Certainly, sir. I have had extensive experience in locating what is known as the seat of the fire. That is its point of origin. And I am of the opinion that the fire commenced in the region of the lounge window.
How exactly?
Well, the afternoon of the 17th was extremely hot. Temperatures were in the 80s. The lounge window contained bullion glass. Now, due to several factors, the angle of the sun, the bubble in the glass, the sun's rays were concentrated onto the curtain, rather like a child playing with a magnifying glass. I should say the temperature reached might have been in the neighborhood of 200 to 230 degrees centigrade, sufficient to ignite a curtain made of cotton or similar fiber.
Were they of cotton?
I can't say. They were completely destroyed in the fire, though the residue suggested they might have been.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. You've been most helpful. In the case of Venora Everett, aged 42, who died in the fire at Hillside Cottage, Froxteen, we've heard the evidence of her husband, also the police pathologist, and the county fire officer. And from their evidence, it appears that this fire was the accidental outcome of the combination of a number of elements.
Come in.
Oh, I hope I'm not disturbing you, Mr. Everett.
Of course not.
I brought you a few flowers from the garden. Help cheer up the room.
I saw you cutting them, but I didn't realize they were for me. Dahlias, too. Oh, thank you.
Are you quite comfortable?
Oh, very. I really can't thank you and your sister enough. You've been so very kind.
Oh, not at all.
Though I don't think I should stay here much longer. I've been here over a week.
Oh, you're not any trouble. And it's quite a change having a man about the house.
Well, I'm negotiating for another cottage, but these things do take a little time.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, you're welcome to stay till everything's settled.
Thank you. How's the writing coming along?
Oh, well, I've been thinking about what you said. Finding a subject nearer home.
Yes.
And to tell you the truth, I did get an idea, but, well, on reflection, I thought it might be in bad taste.
Ah, now, that immediately makes my ears prick up. Tell me more.
Must I?
Come now. It surely can't be as bad as all that.
You might change your mind if I tell you.
Well, you try me.
Well, if you must know, it came to me during the inquest.
The inquest?
On your wife.
Please, do go on.
Well, I don't know how to say it, but I thought it might be an idea to start my story with a fire in the village.
Well, it's been done rather often.
Yes, I suppose it has. I haven't really worked it out in detail. I thought I'd talk it over with Sergeant Foster when he drops in for tea. And unless, of course, you feel or you object.
But why on earth should I? No, do go ahead. Though, personally, I should have looked for something a little more original.
Have you seen the Gazette, Sergeant Foster?
What's that?
There's a picture of you and Mr. Everett leaving the coroner's court.
Oh, is there? Oh, those reporters, they just can't leave well alone, can they?
Mr. Everett's turned away slightly, but it's a very good likeness of you.
Well, let's see. Good grief, that's an insult. Whoever that was, well, take it away. Oh, by the way, I noticed you at the inquest, Miss Elsie, scribbling away in your notebook.
Did you? Yes. You see, finding myself in a coroner's court amidst tragedy, as you might say, I had a sudden inspiration.
Oh, not for another thriller.
Why, yes. Surely it's best to write from your own experience.
Now, you watch your step. That sort of thing can upset people, you know, and you could find yourself with a libel suit.
Oh, no, my village would be entirely fictitious, Sergeant. I was going to call it Medborough or something far removed. I shouldn't think of causing anyone offence.
Well, who's your choice for a victim?
Well, I had in mind an attractive middle-aged woman.
I say. That's pushing coincidence a bit too far, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Yes, I see what you mean. Oh, well, she could be young, I suppose. It doesn't really matter.
What about method? Given that any thought?
Well, to be honest, the thing that sparked me off, forgive the pun, was the idea of the bullion glass. But instead of it being an accident, in my book, the fire's caused deliberately.
Sounds a bit far-fetched to me.
As I dare say it is. Oh, but I was hoping you'd be some help, not put a damper on it.
Well, you must be realistic, Miss Elsie. Now, sit down a minute.
Oh, yes.
Now, perfect murder requires, among other things, perfect timing.
Yes.
And no murderer would ever leave things to chance. What happened at Hillside Cottage depended on quite a few things outside anyone's control. Now, for one thing, the weather. Then Mrs. Everett being alone and dropping off like that. And as the fire expert said, the choice of curtains.
Yes, you have a point there.
Mind you, I suppose there is such a thing as dramatic license. I suppose your murderer could have kept his eye on the weather reports. We're just waiting for a scorcher. But with our climate, he might have had to wait half a lifetime. And then to make sure the victim did drop off, you could always slip her a couple of sleeping tablets.
Yes, Sergeant, yes, but wouldn't that show at the autopsy?
Depend on what's left of the victim. In the case of fire, it's unlikely. Then regarding the curtains, I suppose one could persuade the victim to buy cotton. Well, that's stretching imagination a bit, don't you think?
Yes, doesn't sound very convincing. And anyway, even if the murderer did go to all that trouble, how on earth would I catch him out?
The husband, you mean?
Yes, how would I solve it?
Well, that's your little problem, isn't it? I'm no writer. Although, for what it's worth, in my experience, criminals invariably have to lie somewhere along the way. And the trouble with liars is they have such bad memories. Sooner or later, they'll drop a clanger. So when you settle down at your typewriter, I'd bear that in mind if I was you.
Yeah.
Oh, forgive me, Elsie. I didn't realize you were in here.
Oh, do come in.
Oh, thank you.
The pot's still warm. Would you like a cup?
Oh, thanks. No, don't you get up. I'll see to it. Would you like a second one?
Oh,
It'd give me pleasure to serve you for a change.
thank you. Sarah's at a club committee meeting.
Oh, another?
She can't sit still for a moment. Always doing something. Been like that all her life, even as a child.
It must get rather lonely for you.
Oh, I'm used to it.
I'm afraid that's one thing I've never got used to. Loneliness. I'm a person who needs companionship. You are?
Thank you. You must miss her dreadfully.
Hmm? Who?
Your wife.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I'm sorry. That was tactless of me.
Oh, not at all. One can't grieve forever, can one? There's no point in moping. There comes a time when one must face reality.
Oh, I imagined you were something of a sentimentalist.
Oh, now, Elsie. I know you will hate the cliché, but never judge a book by its cover. Throughout my professional life, I've learned to adapt myself to the situation. It's the only way.
I'm different. I've never been willing to accept second best. That's probably why I've remained an old spinster.
Not old.
Oh, come now. As you said, one must face reality.
Perhaps. But it still puzzles me why somebody hasn't snapped you up long ago.
Oh, do forgive me. Would you like a piece of cake? It's chocolate.
Yes, I think I will. Oh, hey, no, not too large a slice.
It's our own, you know.
Yes, I've had your gâteau on several occasions. They're excellent. But the one I'm really partial to is that new one of yours. What do you call it? Walnut cream.
Yes, that's one of Sarah's creations. Walnut cream, did you say?
Yes. Even Nora was aghast when I asked for a second helping. Oh, don't look so surprised. I have a very sweet tooth. I'm sure you must have noticed.
Yes, of course.
Oh, what is it? Are you all right?
I'm sorry. I hope you won't think I'm being rude, but I've a slight headache. I think I'll have an early night.
Elsie? Oh, in bed already?
Yes, I was feeling rather tired.
Oh, well, then I won't disturb you.
No, don't go, Sarah.
Hmm?
Did the meeting go well?
Very. The bazaar's to be held on the 25th. I've promised them one or two things.
Oh, I should give them a sponge or a gâteau.
I probably will.
That new one of yours. Walnut cream is very popular.
Yes, I'm feeling rather proud of that.
You know, I suddenly realized the very first one went to Mrs. Everett.
Oh, did it? Oh, yes, you're right. I remember now. The day of the fire.
And if Mr. Everett drove to London at 10:20, he couldn't have had any of it.
Well, he's made up for it. He had several portions of tea yesterday.
Oh, did he? Yes, but what I mean was...
Now, you lie back and I'll straighten your pillow. There. If you're feeling tired, this is no time to chatter. That's
Your tea cake, Mr. Rayton.
You've been the ruin of me, Elsie. Here, you're looking a trifle pale this morning. Had a bad night?
I didn't sleep too well.
You ought to try a nightcap. Or maybe you need a tonic. Come across to the shop. I'll fix you up.
Oh, no, I don't think it's anything to worry about.
Well, whatever else you take, don't let me see you with a prescription for sleeping tablets. Although I sell them, I don't approve of them. It's a bad habit to get into.
No, I've never taken any.
Well, I shouldn't start. Confidentially, if you knew the number of people who take sleeping tablets, you'd have a fit. In this village, too.
Really?
Mrs. Turner from the manor.
No.
Bert Parker at the pub. Old Mrs. Denton. Mr. Everett. Charlie
Mr.
Miller.
Everett, did you say?
Yes, I thought that would shake you. But I filled a prescription for him not a fortnight ago.
Millie, have you seen Mr. Everett?
Yes, he went out early.
Where to, did he say?
He's gone along to the cottage, I think.
What, Hillside Cottage?
I expect so. Fancy going back there. Gives me the creeps every time I walk by.
Look, Millie, I'm going out for a little while. If my sister wants me, tell her I'll be back within the hour.
Who's that? Oh, it's you, Elsie. Oh, you did startle me for a moment.
I'm sorry, Mr. Everett.
Oh, what are you doing out here?
Oh, just taking a stroll.
Hmm?
I noticed the shed door was slightly ajar, and I thought someone had broken in.
No, it's been under lock and key since the fire. I came by for a few tools.
What have you got there?
Hmm?
In your hand?
Oh, this tin, you mean? Just some sodium chlorate. Your path could do with weeding. I thought it'd make myself useful. You don't mind my helping out in the garden?
No. I'm sure Sarah will be most grateful.
Yes, but what about you? I was hoping I'd save you a few back-breaking jobs.
Oh, well, thank you.
Elsie, I have a confession to make to you.
You... confession?
Yes. Trouble is, where to begin?
Is it about your wife?
I can see no one can keep things hidden from you. The truth is, we didn't get on very well. During the past 6 months, it became almost unbearable. It was as much as I could do to sit in the same room with her. Oh, I escaped whenever I could. You know, your little tea room was a haven to me. Oh, the fire was a shocking, dreadful thing to have happened, but if I'm to be honest, I'm not unhappy. Far from it.
Why are you telling me this?
Because well, with everyone offering their condolences, it's been a great strain having to keep up this pretense. I needed to tell someone. Who better than you?
Oh. You were up rather early this morning, weren't you?
Always been an early riser.
Oh, didn't you sleep well?
On the contrary, never better.
Sarah came in rather late. I thought she may have disturbed you.
No, I'm a very heavy sleeper.
Have you always been like that?
Yes, since I can remember. I'm one of those people who drops off the moment their head touches the feather.
Oh, Mrs. Clark, you haven't by any chance seen Sergeant Foster, have you?
No, hasn't he been in?
Not yet.
Oh, he's probably over at the county court. I think he'd be in later on. I can't see him missing the roast. Oh, by the way, Miss Elsie, is Mr. Everett still with you?
Yes.
You know, my husband and I offered to put him up, but you got in first. Oh, I don't doubt he's comfortable there. Not much trouble, neither, is he?
Oh, none at all.
No. Awful thing to have happened when you come to think of it. Such a nice man, so considerate to her, although she was a bit of a so-and-so.
Yeah.
You know, I've never known a man worry about his wife's health and comfort as much as he did.
Really?
Yes. You know, she was very susceptible to rheumatism, as Mrs. Everett.
No.
Oh, well, nothing serious, but he'd never take any chances with her. Now, this'll take a lot of believing, but do you know, he used to ring me up at the post office daily to put him through to London for the weather report. Never missed a day throughout the summer, just in case of rain. Now, wasn't that considerate?
Yes. Very.
Oh, my gracious goodness, look at the time. I'll have a queue of customers at the counter, I'll bet. Oh, yes, Sergeant Foster, now.
Hello, Mrs. Clark.
Oh, I can't stop just off the way, Sarge.
Is the roast still on, Miss Elsie?
Yes, yes, it is. I'm so glad
Oh, well, a
you've come
generous
in.
portion for an hungry cupper. Then maybe we'll talk. Go on at the double, I'm famished.
Oh,
Have you finished, Sergeant?
Ah, thank you, Miss Sarah. Lovely bit of beef.
Glad you enjoyed it. Elsie's bringing the coffee.
Why, you seem to be your last customer. Hope I ain't holding you up.
No, we won't start serving tea till about 3.
your coffee, Sergeant.
Ah, thank you, Miss Elsie.
Oh, Elsie, while I remember, as it's half day tomorrow, I promised to help with the bazaar. Will you be going out?
I don't think so. Why?
Well, that new mixer should be arriving. I'd like someone here to take delivery.
I'll be in,
Fine.
Sarah.
Then I can let Millie go off.
Well, Miss Elsie, you found a solution to your fire story yet?
Yes and no. You remember that lie you spoke about?
Uh-huh.
Well, I had an idea about that. In my story, the wife purchases a cake on the day of the fire, after the husband was supposed to have gone up to town. It was a new kind of cake, but the husband at some later date remarks on its flavour. Now, that would prove he was at the house at the time of the fire, wouldn't it?
Not bad. Well, it might be difficult to convince a jury.
But if one could prove he got a prescription for sleeping tablets, though he was a sound sleeper...
Mm-hmm. Possessing sleeping tablets doesn't mean he administered them.
But if one also had a witness to prove he made daily inquiries about the weather, on the pretence of his wife's rheumatism...
You still have to prove criminal intent. I mean, that merely sounds like the action of a considerate husband. Ah, you need something more definite than that. No, I don't want to encroach upon your territory.
Oh, no, please do.
And I think some of these ideas are jolly good, but you know where the weakness lies, don't you?
No.
Those curtains. You see, cottons vary so. I mean, and no matter how odd it was, you could never be certain they'd catch a light.
Unless one experimented.
Still a bit risky. No, what's needed is some really inflammable material. Say a piece of loose weave cellulose net.
Loose weave net.
Well, after all, I mean, it's pretty commonplace. If it was hung in front of the other curtains, no one would give it a second glance. And it wouldn't leave any trace.
Yes, that's certainly an idea.
And then to be double sure, it'd need impregnating with something highly inflammable. Not petrol or anything like that, but something odorless. Now, let me see. An ideal thing would be sodium chlorate.
Sodium chlorate?
Yes, it's used in weed killers. Oh, you can buy it neat without prescription. I bet there's a tin in almost every other garden shed.
Yes.
Oh, I can see I've given you something to think about, eh? So I think I'll take my leave now. Oh, just one other thing. What about motive?
Motive?
Well, one doesn't usually commit murder without rhyme or reason. Is the husband hard up?
No, I imagined him being quite well off.
Well, then, if it's not revenge or fear, that leaves you with the other woman.
The other woman?
Well, you know the sort of thing. The sympathetic friend in the background. Somebody can escape to when the wife gets too much for him.
Would a man really commit murder for another woman?
Would he? You're joking, aren't you? Well, what better motive than the eternal triangle? Why, sometimes the other woman doesn't even know it's happening. The husband waits until the wife's dead and buried before he drops a hint.
Really?
Oh, I see. I made you blush. Oh, well, I hope I haven't been too forward.
No, of course not, sir.
Well, it's time I was moving. Well, I hope the book goes well. But if it sells, I shall expect my 10%. Afternoon, Miss Sarah.
Oh, good afternoon, Sergeant Foster. Oh, Elsie.
I'm just going out. I'm going to get my coat, sir. I'm going across to the draper's.
What for?
Well, the sun bothers me when I'm at the typewriter. I thought I'd get a few yards of net curtaining.
Net? Well, that's not terribly practical. Why don't you get some casement cloth?
No, Sarah. I'd rather have the net.
Afternoon, Miss Pierce. Something I can get you?
Yes, Mr. Potter. I want a few yards of loose weave cellulose net.
Nothing like knowing what you mean or what you want, is there?
Have you such a thing?
I'm afraid we don't carry a very large selection of net curtaining. Funnily enough, you're the second one who's asked for loose wave in the past month.
Oh? Well, forgive me for being curious, but I'd hate to have the same curtains as my next-door neighbour who asked for the net. Can you remember?
No, not offhand. My new girl, Connie, was serving. Connie?
Did you call, Mr. Potter?
Here a minute.
Yes, Mr. Potter.
That inquiry you had for loose weave net, who asked for it?
Loose weave net?
I was in the stock room at the time.
How long ago?
Oh, 3 or 4 weeks.
It was the first week I was here. I didn't know whether I was coming or going.
Well, I remember I told you to tell the customer to try a theatrical place, Harrington's of Retford. They usually stock loose weave.
Oh, yes, I remember that. But I can't remember the customer.
Oh, never mind. What was the place you mentioned, Harrington's?
That's about the nearest, bar going up to London.
Sarah.
You didn't have any luck, I see.
No, I shall be going into Retford tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow? But you were going to take delivery of the mixer.
Oh, was I? Oh, dear. And I've already bought my ticket.
Oh, well, you might have told me. I've already given Millie the afternoon off.
Perhaps she'll stay if you ask her.
Oh, really, Elsie? You are the limit.
Yes, may I help you?
I wonder if you can.
Harringtons are renowned for their selection, madam. What are you doing, Gilbert and Sullivan? Or would it be a play?
I beg your pardon?
What costumes are you looking for?
Oh, no. No, it's material I want.
Over here, madam. Taffeta, rayon, damask, nylon, silk, satin. We carry over 5,000 lines.
5,000? Well, no, actually, all I require is some net.
Net. Mm. What kind of net?
Loose weave. Do you stock such a thing?
Of course, madam. One moment. This is what you had in mind, madam?
Well, I'm not terribly sure. You see, I believe a friend of mine bought some here, and I'd rather like to get the same. It looked so very nice in their window.
I'm sure. When did they purchase it?
Or within the last month or so, I think. But I don't suppose you can remember all your customers.
On the contrary, madam, we have records of every transaction. Of course, most of our customers are trade or professional. But I suppose I could look among the retail receipts.
Oh, would you? That would be most kind of you.
One moment, I'll just get the receipt book. Here we are. And what was the name?
My name?
No, madam, not your name, your friend.
Oh, I see, yes. Everett.
Everett. Ah, yes.
You found it?
I believe so. I haven't the original letter, but as you can see, the receipt is addressed to V. Everett.
V?
Yes. Is that your friend?
What? Oh, yes. Well, on second thoughts, I don't think this is quite right for me. I'll leave it if you don't mind.
As you wish, madam.
Good afternoon, Miss Pierce. Looking for Sergeant Foster?
Oh, yes. Yes, Constable, I was. Is he about?
Oh, you just missed him, but he should be back shortly. Can I take a message?
No, but I would like a word with him as soon as possible. Perhaps you'd tell him I called.
Oh, certainly. I'll put a note on his desk right away.
Oh, Millie, it's you.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, dear, I do wish you wouldn't creep about like that. What are you doing up here?
The laundry came. I put yours in your room. This is for Mr. Everett.
Is he in?
No, he went out after lunch. The mixer arrived.
Did it?
Oh, it isn't half smashing, all red and white with ever so many gadgets. Well, I'd better get rid of Mr. Everett's laundry, I suppose.
No, I'll put it in his room.
Oh,
Millie.
right, Ma'am.
Oh, thank you. You can go off now.
Oh, thank you, Ma'am. See you tomorrow.
Mr. Everett? Mr. Everett? Oh. Now I wonder... A deed box. Why, it's open. Oh!
Elsie, what are you doing? That deed box was in the drawer when I left.
Oh, I suppose you've destroyed the receipt.
Receipt? What receipt?
Don't pretend. You know very well. The receipt from Harrington's for the cellulose net. You've gone quite pale, Mr. Everett. It's always something of a shock to be found out, isn't it?
Found out?
Is that all you can say? Not that I want to listen.
No, please.
Kindly let me pass, Mr. Everett.
No.
I asked you to let me pass.
Elsie, please, I must talk to you.
I see no point.
Look, I can guess what you must be thinking. You imagine that...
Imagine? Really? Do you deny that you lied to the police and the coroner about the time you drove up to London?
No.
Or that you obtained a prescription for sleeping tablets when you sleep perfectly well without them?
You obviously know, so how can I deny it?
Or that for weeks you inquired daily about the weather?
That's perfectly true.
And that you purchased 6 yards of loose weave netting and impregnated it with weed killer to make it more inflammable?
That I do deny.
But I saw you with the tin of sodium chloride.
But I didn't purchase it.
Your name was on the receipt for the
No,
net.
I can...
Don't deny it. I saw it with my own eyes.
Look, I don't blame you for what you're thinking.
That's most kind
If
of you.
only you'll listen to me, just for a few moments. Look, I'll move away from the door. It's unlocked. You're free to leave whenever you like. But just a few minutes of your time, that's all I ask. Please.
All right.
Thank you. Well, you remember I told you that Nora and I didn't get on very well together?
Yes?
Well, that was something of an understatement. The marriage was a terrible mistake. I'd have left her, but frankly, I couldn't bear the thought of a divorce and all the scandal. And if you ask why she stayed, I can tell you in one word. Money.
But I thought she was quite well off.
Well, believe me, when I married her, I wasn't concerned one way or another. But she deliberately lied to me about her income. The fact is, she hadn't a penny. There was little doubt why she married me. You were quite right. On the day of the fire, I was at the cottage for lunch.
Then why did you...
All in good time. After lunch, Nora went across to the hatch to pour out the coffee. There was a mirror facing the table, and as I looked up, I saw her drop some tablets into one of the cups. I imagined it was her saccharin, but as she turned, I realized that my cup was the one with the tablets.
She'd handed you the wrong cup.
So I thought. I suppose I could have said something, but it would only have led to an argument. Nora was never one to admit a mistake.
Then what did you do?
Well, there was no dessert, and she asked me if I'd like some gatto, the walnut cream. I said yes, and while she was cutting it, I swapped the coffee cups.
She didn't notice?
No. She suggested we take our coffee into the lounge. It was rather close in there, I remember. I wanted to get off to my board meeting, but Nora insisted I rested for a few minutes. We both sat there without a word, when suddenly she dropped off. I was very grateful and crept out and left for London. During the drive, I reached for my handkerchief and found a small tube in my pocket.
What tube?
Nora's sleeping tablets.
Mr. Rayton said he supplied them to you?
He did. Nora rowed with everyone, including the local GP. Phenobarbital's on prescription, so I had to pretend they were for me. It was the same with the weather report. She got a sudden mania about her health. If I didn't check, she wouldn't step out of the house.
But what were the sleeping tablets doing in your pocket?
You may well ask. I'd seen them on her dressing table earlier on. It was full. But now, 3 tablets were missing.
What?
I didn't know what to think. Then after the board meeting, I received the message from Sergeant Foster. He didn't mention Nora, but during the drive back, I felt uneasy. It suddenly struck me that Nora might still have been in the cottage. Understand, I was confused. Supposing those sleeping tablets were meant for me. She drugged my coffee and planted the tablets in my pocket to look as though I'd taken them myself. And the fire wasn't just an accident. I realized that if traces of phenobarbital were found in Nora's stomach, it might prove very embarrassing, to say the least. That's why I lied about the time. Everything was destroyed in the fire except that old deed box. Nora used to keep odd bits of correspondence in it. I didn't look through it until after the inquest. I knew about the sodium chlorate, but it wasn't until I found this that I was certain Nora had tried to murder me.
Murder you?
Yes. Look at this.
What is it?
It's a brief note from Harrington's confirming her order for the cellulose net.
But the receipt was marked out to you, V. Everett.
Her name was Venora. I called her Nora for short.
Venora? But then, why didn't you go to the police?
Well, what purpose would it serve? Another inquest, more questions, reporters? Besides, I'd have had to admit I lied about having lunch at the cottage. And after all, if I could lie about one thing, I could lie about the tablets, the weather reports, and even that order for the net.
Yes.
I'll make no bones about it, Elsie. I was afraid. I don't say I would have been found guilty, but there was always that possibility.
Yes.
There is still, if you go to the police. But that's up to you. I shan't stop you. You're free to leave whenever you like. Come in.
Oh, yes, Millie. What is it?
Sergeant Foster's on the phone, ma'am. Said you left a message for him.
Oh, yes. Well, look, Millie, apologize for me, would you? Tell him it wasn't frightfully important. I'll call him back later.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe you, Mr. Everett.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I still think you were very foolish to lie to the police, and if you'll take my advice, you'll dispose of that weed killer.
I have.
But keep that note from Harrington's. It proves you're innocent. And if my novel's published, someone may put 2 and 2 together.
But surely you're not going to...
Oh, don't worry. I'll change the names. Besides, everyone's bound to say it's far-fetched, but I'm sure it'll sell.
I've no doubt. Well, thank you again, Elsie. And if there's anything I can do for you at any time, you won't hesitate to ask, will you?
Well, just watch over my dailies, that's all. And, oh, there is just one other little thing.
Yes?
Please don't think I insist by any means. I'd hate you to feel that, but my sister's terribly anxious to acquire that little plot next door.
Oh, she can have it.
Oh, no, we'll pay the market price, Mr. Everett.
Please, Elsie, not Mr. Everett. Victor.
Now, Elsie, I need your signature. Here, here, and here.
It's terribly exciting, isn't it?
Fine. Now this can go straight off to the solicitors. And the builders should be able to start early next month.
Oh, I'm so pleased. I can't tell you.
It wasn't easy. Mr. Everett was a hard nut to crack. I had to fight every inch of the way.
Did you?
But finally I got him down to 200.
How clever of you.
It's a good job one of us has a head for business.
Oh, it certainly is. I have to hand it to you, Sarah. Oh, you're the practical one.
That was The Weather for Murder by Philip Levine, in which you heard Marie Ney as Elsie Pierce and Barbara Cooper as Sarah Pierce. Mr. Rayton was played by Derek Blomfield, Millie by Peggy Butt, Sergeant Foster Julian Summers, Mrs. Clark Vivian Chatterton, Mr. Everett Derek Birch, Mrs. Everett Stella Tanner, Miss Brown Zibba Mays, Coroner John Brining, Mr. Jenkins William Edel, Mr. Potter Louis Stringer, Connie Angela Piper, and the costumier Donald McKillie.